We can't be waiting to... What the fuck? You're fired on a day like today? It's a fucking crash. Hurry up.
Ring, 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 hello,
It's
Sims
spitting time.
and virgins. And welcome back to Krown's magical Doom Cave. It's all over.
It's all over. Elsa checked her portfolio this morning and was like, no, it's all over. Anyways, we got plenty to talk about today as Bitcoin is, of course, choosing the downside route, the route that no one wants to talk about, but we've been talking about it here, of course, and I imagine other places as well. You know, I'm just giving a little bit of a fun intro right here as we discuss the open interest cascading here into some longs giving up their good old positions. Of course, I have a major announcement today, a few major announcements today. Okay, first and foremost, holy shit, where do I start with this one? Holy fucking moly, man. Shout out to our lovely developer team. They are amazing, they are incredible, and they have finally come out with the version 3 of the Krown chain application. I couldn't be more happy about this, man. It looks fucking amazing, and you can have it yourself for free in the link in the description below. There are a few caveats with how to actually access this information, and you're probably going to want to access this information because, well, if you can access this information, you're probably going to, or you probably noticed why we probably dumped last night, and also why we're probably, or where we're probably going to find some lows as well. But with that said, if you go to the link in the description below and it gives you some sort of an error, okay, listen very, very carefully here. If it gives you some sort of an error or it gives you like a loading screen that just becomes annoying and it's not working, what you should do in order to fix that in the most simple way is press at the same time Control, Shift, and R. If you can do that, it'll bring up this lovely page over here and you get all of this fucking data for free. Now we have hourly feeds on the most pertinent data, of which, hey, look, it's right in front of your face right here, huh? The global open interest chart. But we'll get to that in a second because I also want to let you know that we do have the Jewel Light also on display in the link description below as well. We're offering it up for free for the next month or so, and then it's going to vanish like the wind. So you should check it out while you can. And obviously, holy shit, man, I see that the interwebs here is maybe having a little bit of boofaring. Hopefully that is going to go okay. Let me know if there's any major issues with it, but perhaps I need to shut off the old prawns downloading over there. Anyways, okay, so let's get into it right now. Of course, starting off with the Krown chain application, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. And like I said, there is a link in the description below. I want to do a big focus on the app today because now it is more relevant than ever as we do see the global open interest, which, by the way, you can even adjust the size of these charts now just by, well, very intuitively kind of shifting this around here, although this is a perfect size for me because I am rather blind. But as you can see right here, we did finally see the open interest really starting to come down, and this has been a crux of the analysis, realistically giving us, you know, a bias towards maybe one more move to the downside first before any sort of major lows have been had, and that is essentially what we're seeing right now. And so what I want to talk about right here with the open interest specifically is that anytime that we have been above about 12 billion, especially with a B, that is, it has resulted in downside moves. We can talk about this one over here actually from actually March of the prior year, where Bitcoin had that first major move down from about $60,000 to I think $50,000 low. Then we had a major one over here on the prior all-time high at $65,000 before going down to basically $30,000. Then more recently in September of the past year, we saw that same read produce a move from 53 all the way down to 40. And then we saw more recently and most importantly on our current all-time high, the newest and greatest all-time highs that we've ever seen on open interest at about 16.5 billion, resulting in this current move thus far. And of course, what we're seeing right now is yet again another cascading of that 13 billion read, which is resulting in a downside move. Here's the thing though, and why I think that this is really important, especially on a day like today. You can actually go down into the hourly data now, and you can see this start to cool off. So we identified this yesterday. I did it again, I believe, on Elio Trade's channel later in that evening, and you saw them finally start to come down significantly on the hourly. So we probably are going to be looking at very short-term time frame bounces relatively soon. However, I do not think that the major move is done just yet. Why is that? Because if you go back on over here on a daily, just by simply clicking this button right now, or clicking this button right here, you don't have to do necessarily right now, although if you want to follow along, you can. But more importantly, you will notice, and this is going to be a little more experimental, but I do think that it's going to hold some weight. You can draw a regression from our lows, from the lows of Bitcoin over the summer to where we're at right now. And you can see that a regression from these lows over here, again, I guess this would start more or less in May, going to where we're at right now, has essentially caught the last major lows for this asset once, twice, thrice, and actually 4 times if you do count the one over here, which was the prior major dump to $30,000 from the first time Bitcoin did hit $40,000. So I thought that was rather interesting, and I would definitely keep an eye on that, because if Bitcoin Bitcoin does come back down to base around that, let's just call it like mid or a little bit lower than $12 billion marker, that's probably going to be a good place at minimum for a nice bouncy bounce, which is probably, very much relevant to be aware of, and maybe even the next major low, which we're going to go into soon enough in price action as to kind of what to expect there. So other than that, you'll see a lot of other things on the front end dashboard here. You can actually customize it quite significantly now. You can press a little plus button over here. It's going to bring up this pane, and you can put up all sorts of cool shit that you'd ever want to look at. I'll be doing a video on the application itself later to just run through all of the new fun stuff. By the way, biggest losers. Oh man, you can't fucking do without that pane. And you can see the market getting absolutely fucking schlacked in the last 24 hours with double digits down on just about most of the coins out there. And on top of that, if we do go back up on over here, you do see that the fear and greed index is actually at a 24, 23 read right now. We are extremely fearful. What I want to be doing is I want to be setting some alerts for this specifically. So I'm going to go in over here and I want to actually set an alert for the fear and greed index. And I want to see if it goes down to like some really, really crazy levels on a dump like this. If we start to get down, especially into the low teens or even single digits, that is really where I want to be aware of. Not 1,000. That would be a little bit too high. Maybe I'm going to put an alert for 15, and then I'm going to put another alert for actually below 10. As well, and these are the areas that I really start to become interested in when you do see one of these major dump olas for at least a bit of a mean reversion play. In this case, I'm going to go below 10 right here as well, just so that we can see some single digits. As typically speaking, whenever you do see anywhere below there, you're very, very likely coming into a low than not. So let's go into the market data tab. This one, you'll likely recognize a lot of things going on over here. However, we do have several different panes at the top end right here, representing flows, indicators, network, funds, global. You're probably going to be most interested in the indicators tab for what it's worth right now on the day-to-day information. But if you do go into the exchanges net flows, I do think that this is somewhat interesting as well, as you can put it on an hourly feed, and you can see if coins coming into exchange are coming off exchanges, pretty much in real time. I mean, we saw an inflow right here, a pretty big inflow of about 2,000 coins right before the dump ola started, it looks like. And then, of course, if we go into the indicator tab, you will notice that I'm going to be putting a big eye on the leverage ratios yet again. And you can see that this is still, and by the way, you can adjust it as well, which looks absolutely fucking beautiful. And you can see, yet again, we are pretty much at all-time highs. Yeah, we're seeing an ever so slight downtick in this, but this can certainly cascade a little bit more. So I don't think that we've seen the lows of this move just yet. We're obviously getting closer, but these are the sort of underlying market dynamics that I'd really be looking for alongside sentiment indicators to be a lot more confident that we actually have, a tradable event in this case. Until these sort of situations are resolved, I do think that this asset is still risky, as we have been saying for the past, for the past while now, I guess. If we go down into the hourly over here, for this leverage ratio data, not fucking good. Not fucking good indeed. Hasn't really taken a downtick yet at all, in fact. And if we go over here to the fear and greed index, again, on the daily, we are in the extreme fearful zone, but of course, in an event like this, it's really starting to shape up similarly to what we saw over the summer, as you can see right here. And whilst we probably are coming to the end of this move, relatively speaking, sooner rather than later, compared to like where Bitcoin was at about $60,000 way over here in late 2021, well, you can see based off of what we saw over the summer, it can stay down here for a little bit more time. And you can see that we're starting to really curl up into this region, and it is actually having a bit of a divergence with price action, which is, that would not be a good divergence, by the way, just so you know. But hey, it is there for you. No, there is not an hourly feed for this. It only updates on a daily, just so you know. So we have hourly feeds for all the things that possibly can have hourly feeds, and for the other ones, not so much. And you can check out all of the other data over here. And if you're just wondering sort of what is, the new stuff that is available, just click into this pane over here. It'll explain, what is new and what kind of expect and how to use it. And then I should also let you know about our newsletter as well. My man Roger, he's just amazing with English, actually, but that makes sense because he lives in England, so he probably speaks it better than us. So he's great with English. He's also English. I'm American, not great with English. Anyways, let's see what we got going on right now. Actually, before we see what we got going on right now with price action, I want to polish off this goddamn Krown coffee over here. Should probably get my own coffee as well. For right now, I'm just sipping on some supermarket coffee, which is actually pretty damn good today. So we'll get into it in just a second. Just uno momento, my friends, and we'll get on with it. Yeah, the fear and greed index is 15. So you actually, if you actually got the more pertinent, let me just double check fear and greed index Bitcoin. It probably is at at a 15. We actually still have little bit of a lagged data on that. Let me see. Let me just pull it up over here. Yeah, it is at a 15. So we are in extreme fear. So yeah, we probably are coming a little bit closer. Like I said, the open interest is going to be a lot more pertinent for the short term. And then the fear and greed index just kind of gives you a bias on that. So I think now would be a good time for me to start recording. Let me make sure that I got everything. Hey, there's my little LARP lines right there. That's, hey, still working, I guess. Anyways, I'm gonna record this one. I want to get the most important points into this. I just wanted to kind of show off the app right there, and also, explain this as well. For all the people on Instagram who are getting DM'd by some sort of a Eric Krown, who is not me. It's not fucking me. I'm not gonna DM you to trade your account. I'm not gonna DM you to download some sort of software on your phone or whatever you might be browsing your Instagrams on. And I just want to say first and foremost, hey. If it sounds too good to be true in crypto land, it's probably not true. So please be defensive against anyone who's messaging you with like promises of riches, especially if it's coming from someone that is has a similar name to myself, but not exactly myself. It is an imposter. I would never do that, and I'm not interested in that. And if you are interested in my actual social medias, like my personal social medias, they are in the link description below, just so that people know which one's actually mine. Because the problem with this is that these fucking scammers, man, they have more followers than me, so it looks more legit, and they copy every last little thing. It's so bizarre, man. They put so much effort into scamming, and if they just put that effort into like real things, they could be probably rich as fuck, man. They'd be like the Michael Jordan of anything, basically. All right, sweet. So let's get into it right now with Bitcoin. We got a nice little crash-ola situation going on. Apologies for the clickbait title. Of course, Bitcoin is just, well, playing out moves that we've been looking at, especially from the global open interest and leverage ratio pains over here. So I want to once again put a bit of an emphasis on this, as this is being recorded during the live stream, but I really want to round out this statement because there's two major things to be aware of with the open interest, both with kind of not getting excited for the dump to be over just yet, and also kind of judging where the dump is likely to end. So first and foremost, anytime that we have seen the open interest, the global open interest that is, above 12 billion, we have seen major moves to the downside, at least 20%, and in several cases actually more like 30 to 40%, in fact. So we're talking about this one over here from March, from about 55,000 down to about 40,000, I think it was, or something of that nature. It was a big move. And then of course the prior highs at $65,000 before going down to $30,000. Then the more recent one in September before going from 53 down to 40,000 bucks in basically one day. And then the most recent one from our current all-time high at $69,000, nice, and all the way down to $40,000 over here. And right now, you can see that we are still working off these highs. We are still working off these extreme conditions for the leverage, which is showing that we probably still have a little bit more downside to go. You can also notice on the other side, for judging when this is likely to be over, we can kind of draw a regression from our summer lows. In fact, even before that, about a year ago, back on over here in January 24th, on that first major dumpola, which by the way, we did have an extreme read before that as well. If I can, actually I can't pull back right, I can make the pain bigger, but I won't do that right now because I want to save a little bit of time. But you can imagine that there, if you were to kind of draw a regression between these lows, these lows, these lows, and these lows that kind of result after each and every extreme condition, you will notice that you're likely going to be looking at this probably coming back down somewhere below, somewhere around about 10 billion-ish region, and I would be expecting at minimum a very, 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 very big bounce. What does that correlate with on price action? Well, we'll talk about that soon enough on the actual charts, but for right now, it is still risk. It is still very much risk. And you can go down here into the hourly feeds now. Are we boofering? Is this not good? Okay, it is good. All right, sweet. Anyways, yeah, it's being weird on my other screen over there. You can see that we are starting to see this, really cascade here. But and of course, there's going to be bounces along the way. It's probably going to be even a short-term bounce right now. In fact, there is even a short-term bounce right now, which is fair enough. But ultimately, when we look at the daily, we can very quickly see that this does very likely have some more to go before we do fully reset. Anyways, go into the price action charts right here and get onwards and forwards with it. I'm going to turn this off. We're going to go over here and we're going to put it on a weekly, of which you can see that Bitcoin is now fulfilling that prior wick low from 4th of December, which we did say was the target if you were going to break our current lows at about $46,000, which has happened obviously overnight here. So I would be looking for a bounce basically right around that same region. I think we've pretty much exactly filled it. The 4th of December lows was 42,823.40, and right now we have a low of actually a little bit lower than than that, but that is okay. Very similar to what we saw actually over the summer, just for what it's worth. You saw this first major wick low right here, gets retested once, gets retested twice, boom, major, massive bear trap before going from about $30,000 all the way up to $69,000, about a few months later, essentially. So pretty damn big moves right there. But for right now, Bitcoin is still under pressure. So I've been making some pretty aggressive statements on the last few long-term videos that while Bitcoin, could very easily play out a move like this, the major thing to be aware of, or at least something that I'd really be highlighting here, is not just, a dumbola, but where does it likely end? And going off of statistics, going off of the history of this asset, we do have a really, 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 really big thing to be aware of. And that is, of course, over here on the fundamental chart, of which I want to focus on the hash ribbons indicator. Now, this is essentially an enhanced version of like the generic hash ribbons indicator. Understand that you don't need this. You can, I really appreciate the guy who made this one for me, but it has a reverse function on it. If you're just looking for a hash ribbons indicator, they're all the same. They're basically all the same. You don't have to worry too much about that. I know that I've been getting a lot of questions about that, so fair enough. Just understand that is, it's all the same information. Anyways, what we've done here, and what I'll do yet again, is that we have seen a historic relationship between any time that we've seen a blue buy signature on this hash ribbons indicator and the prior major lows that Bitcoin's seen, which has accurately gotten basically all lows before never being tested again ever in the history of Bitcoin, all 18 or so times that we have seen this indication, except for once. And that one time was way back on over here a couple years ago now, in March 2020. You might remember it, where we got a blue buy signal. Let me actually just plot it on over here so we can really nail it down. But we saw a blue buy signal right here. And of course, Bitcoin did close below it on a daily, So that does matter, obviously. But all of the other iterations have essentially solidified the prior daily low to that blue buy signal as being the next major low before never being closed below ever again. That does not mean that they can't be retested. And we'll bring this into why it's relevant for right now. But I want to first show you a few examples as to how this has kind of operated in the past, so that you can see for yourself. And again, this is just statistics. That's all that it is. And what do we see over here? We see a blue buy signature. Where's your daily low before that? That would be your $17,000 lows in, of course, late November. And of course, as of right now, we have not seen Bitcoin come back down and test that level ever again. In fact, or certainly close below it. Of course, it can test it, but has not closed below it. The time before that was back on over here in July of 2020. You can see the daily low before that blue buy signal was right here at about 9,000. And of course, Bitcoin kind of, comes back down and gives a few wicks towards it. That's fine. That's fine. No closures below. And of course, Bitcoin's never really even seen that level really realistically ever since. Of course, coming after the flu dump in March 2020, we saw in April another blue buy signature right here. The prior daily low was 6,800, as you can see, and that, well, again, was never tested ever again. So the only one out of, I believe, about 18 iterations was right here. You're looking at it right now, December 2019. Your daily low prior to this blue buy signature was, of course, at about 6,600. And yes, Bitcoin certainly did close below that about a few months later, actually, after that. Which again, it was kind of a black swan situation. And yes, those things can happen. It's a non-zero probability to have a black swan situation. Of course, they're unlikely, but they do happen. So I'm not saying that it can't happen again, but I do want to be fully aware of all of the contingencies with a signature like this, of which when we go into our current price action, why is this relevant, and what can we kind of grab from this? Well, guess what? Our last blue buy signal was back on over here in early August, when Bitcoin really started to reverse out of that bear trap from the summer. And guess what? The daily low prior to that blue buy signal was right here, just above $37,000. So we would expect, if this does hold to fruition long term, that whilst Bitcoin can come back down and test even around that region, it's completely fine. We would expect no closures below about 37,000 and some odd change. So this can, this can obviously operate in many different ways, but for right now, I would still kind of hold off on getting full on bearish. I'm not full on bearish looking for a mega doom dildo, back down to $30,000, or at least if we were to get back down to $30,000, it probably bounces back up and we close, a nice wick back above, hopefully that region, so that narrative stays alive. Now, here's the thing: we are dealing with a unique situation. Why did this all happen to begin with? Kind of explain the dump. Not that there really needs to be an explanation, but at the end of the day, the real explanation is, hey, we had an imbalance of buyers versus sellers in favor of the sellers in this case. But what's actually happening right now? The Fed came out with minutes yesterday, and they talked about a little bit more of an aggressive taper, and of course, not having this massive balance sheet, which I think is close to 9 trillion or something, which is just ridiculous to begin with. And obviously the narrative right now is inflation. And that's the problem with being a narrative driven asset like Bitcoin. By the way, happy dump Thursday, all 3,000 people here right now. I see that we got 637 likes on this video. Amazing, man. This is a new all-time high, baby. And a pleasurable Thursday morning to you, of course, as well. Anyways, so yes, the narrative right now is inflation, and the Fed used to have a mandate for essentially supporting asset prices because, well, that's, theoretically what most people in the US were, essentially living off of, and supporting that would be theoretically good for everyone. Well, now because the political narrative has changed, and the political narrative is, hey, we have inflation, it's a big problem, please do something about it. The politicians have to react to that because they want to get reelected, obviously, and, you probably don't want that much inflation as well. But I do understand that there's some counterpoints to that, to be fair. It might not be exactly as we see. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The narrative and the feeling of that is what matters most. And so when it comes down to it, the Fed is now mandated to essentially get inflation under control, which means that they will be doing some rate hikes a little bit more aggressively, pulling back some of the Fed balance sheet as well from 9 fucking trillion to hopefully something a little bit more reasonable. I mean, that would probably be good for the markets. But here's the problem with that. The problem with that is that we saw a major liquidity bubble. That's why you saw basically all risk on assets go to the upside pretty much vertically since March 2020. I mean, you can see it right here on Bitcoin. There's pretty much, if you're on the macro scale, realistically no major pullbacks until late 2021, essentially, when they started to have these issues and talk about this again on the macro scale. So, how long does it does this take to kind of resolve itself? This probably takes, a few months, to be quite honest with you, until that sort of a thing gets under control, and then the market essentially prices it in, which the market will price it in and find its lows before the Fed fully, takes care of that situation. That's at the time when we're probably going to see the maximum financial opportunity. Until then, it's probably going to be quite volatile. It's going to be quite volatile for a lot of theoretical reasons, but the most direct and obvious reason is that with the Fed tapering and taking out some of their balance sheet from the market, because they were supporting the market by just adding liquidity, like every fucking night, adding a few more zeros to the balance sheet right there. Well, naturally speaking, there's not going to be as much money slushing around these markets to be on the fucking bid side, basically, and on the offer side as well. But it's certainly going to favor the seller side, of course. And we do see the same thing in traditional markets, of which you need to be aware of this, of course, if you're trading any major risk asset, which Bitcoin certainly is. I know that people want Bitcoin to be the uncorrelated asset. I've never really looked at Bitcoin as uncorrelated since essentially like 2012. I think that anyone who's looked at at this in a long-term time frame would probably see that. If you're on a short-term time frame, maybe a little bit different. But here's your NASDAQ representing financials and technologies, and this one's putting in a reversal right here. Yes, you are very likely to see a bounce right here. Yes, that probably aligns with Bitcoin planning to bounce as well. But is this the top for a while? Probably yes. I mean, when we go over to the monthly, that's starting to represent some intense selling. We probably do work our way lower over the next couple months. Does that work into Bitcoin as well? Probably yes. And again, we'll be talking about the major. We'll be highlighting these major areas, kind of be looking for as an opportunity. But this would be one of the times where it's very, very wise to have some of your portfolio in cash as always. So, is there anything that I'm missing right now? Yes. Okay. Let's also talk about other ways, kind of garner some downside targets. Although I did miss one thing, and I do want to address this as well. With the Fed, of course, taking care of this, you do expect that Dixie is rallying, and we've been very, very bullish on Dixie basically since like end of Q3 of 2021. Where is my damn Dixie though? Where's my damn Dixie? Where the fuck is it? Hold on. I think I found it. Yes, it's alphabetized, so it should be rather obvious. But yeah, we did get a pullback into this region. We did get our pullback that we were looking for, but that was only short term. This one is still long-term bullish. Monthly is, I was hoping the monthly was going to pull back a little bit more, which would give a bit more of a reprieve to the general markets. But here's the problem. When you look at the quarterly, when you look at the higher term timeframes, this is very, 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 very likely going to work its way up towards $99 over the next half year to a year, I do suspect. I mean, this is just one major oscillator, to be fair. And if we go over to the 6 month as well, I mean, this is, it's hard to kind of argue with right now. Yes, we might see a bit of a pullback down to like just below 95 still, but ultimately that is very likely to just be that, just a pullback, bro, before very likely trying higher over time. So going back into Bitcoin over here and kind of judging these next sort of downside trajectory areas, of which actually, while we are here on a monthly, let's go look at Bitcoin's major areas on a monthly. And what do you know? The yellow 21 exponential moving average very likely going to be, a target for something, for a stray wick anywhere around there. And guess where it is? It's right fucking above that blue buy signal that you saw at $37,000. It's currently trading actually just above $37,000, but anywhere around there is fair game. That is typically where you look for your corrections to be happening when you do see bearish divergence in this case. Now, to be fair, this is not like the most this is not like the most severe case of bearish divergence, and very likely is going to plot some hidden bullish divergence on the other side. But obviously that would imply a little bit of short-term pain before long-term pleasures, which, yes, long-term I am quite bullish on Bitcoin. Obviously, I mean, it is just a macro bullish market. Still, even with this pullback, it will be a macro bullish market, especially as long as Bitcoin is trading above $30,000 long-term. But for right now, it's time to be a bit more on the defensive, at least in my opinion. And we do see Bitcoin play out these corrections alongside traditional markets. So, get ready for some volatile times. Where would I essentially call this this correction over? A few different ways, of course. So the first way would obviously be on price action, which is the most important way. Before, we were looking at this area over here. Let me just pull up, I think, my most relevant chart for this. That's not my most relevant chart. Where is it? It's right here. Yeah. This would be back above $52,000. But as you can see on the good bad chart, the most simplistic chart of all fucking time, which funnily enough is still working pretty damn well. You break the bad zone, you head to the very bad zone, and you very likely bounce off the very bad zone and spend a little bit of time there. What's up? Yeah, I'm aware. That's great. That's great. Anyways, not relevant right now. Again, I understand that's at a 15. It is extreme fear of, again, the extreme fear and sentiment indicators give us a bias on what to be looking for. They do not tell us exactly when to tell. They do not tell us price action, obviously. Just gives you a bias to then be looking on price action, which we do not have right now. So here's the thing. As long as Bitcoin, where was I? There I was. Okay, so before it was above $52,000 where we said, hey, we can now look at this as a major, massive bottom before working our way back up towards, $60,000 plus, most likely. In this case, because Bitcoin has now obviously failed that region yet again and initiated the bad zone to the very bad zone, we could actually move that price point down to be getting, looking at this correction as over. And in this case, it would no longer be this area right here. I think that you could be more aggressive in this case. I would be looking at the 48,500-ish region simply because that is our last rejective high before obviously playing out this nasty, this very, very nasty downside move. And here's also the thing. You're going to have many things aligning with this. We do see on the daily RSI, we would be theoretically creating some regular bullish divergence of the 2 drives variety. Typically, you want to see 3 for those major massive lows, but in this case, probably good for a bounce relatively soon if Bitcoin can confirm a little bit of a local low anytime within the next like few days here, of which that'd probably have targets back up somewhere around $45,000. But to be fair, what's probably going to happen, or at least in my opinion, what's probably going to be happening is something similar to the summer over here, where you come back down and you fill this wick a few more times, actually. And you probably do something like this, where you get an initial bounce of this region, maybe come back down, scare the ever-loving shit of out of people yet again, maybe come down to 41, maybe even come down a little bit further than that, somewhere around that $37,000 number on a wick. And then if Boo Law Jesus is still at the wheel, probably looking at hopefully looking at something like that. If you see something like that, that would be your confirmation that Bitcoin is no longer in this massive correction and very likely looking back up towards deep 50s, low 60s, something like that. Until then, that is a bit of hopium, obviously, and the doomium is that Bitcoin is going to come back down below, especially $41,000, close a weekly diddle below there, and then destroy the hash ribbon signal as well, which would indicate that we're probably in a more dire situation, representing maybe even a black swan in the mist as well, and you're likely looking at minimum price action back down to the low $30,000 territory. Until then, it is of course risky, but I am starting to see some things that do suggest that this momentum is waning to the downside. If we go over here to our momentum charts, you will notice on the daily that Bitcoin is really fucking low right here. Yes, of course, when you do see volatility starting to spark up like this alongside alongside a very aggressive read like this, you probably do see at least one more move, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. But if you do start to see this one clear back above these critical levels that we've been marking off for the past week or so now, which have not been met, to be fair, then that would be a good indication that we're probably nearing the end of this correction, at minimum for a nice tradable bounce. Probably looking at, 5 to 10% bounce, I think, at minimum. And in this case, the current magical number is $45,000, essentially, $44,900 if you want to be exact. If you go over here to a weekly, you'll also notice that we are absolutely nosediving, and the magical number has corrected all the way down from like 65,000 over the past month and a half to now 53,000. So this is playing out over time, as is the 5-day, which is now 48,200 or so. So again, that does align with, maybe floundering around this wick low a few more times, but ultimately I would still be aware of those sort of, of those sort of things on the board, because once they start to turn up, we're likely in for, at minimum, a nice tradable bounce, and at worst, at best, a major reversal. I'm sure that some people are going to be calling this a head and shoulders right here. Is there any merit to that is the real question. And there is, actually, to be fair. This would be your left shoulder, this would be your right shoulder. Your right shoulder is less than your left shoulder, and your head is over here. Yeah, I guess it does hold due fruition right there. I'm curious what the measure move on this would be, just to see, like max, or I wouldn't say it's max, but it would be like, this is like what is possible to happen, I guess. That'd be all the way down to $20,000. I'm not necessarily of that opinion, but hey, weirder things have happened, obviously. I do think that there's going to be a lot of warning before that in the way. And then, of course, the last thing to kind of end on here is, of course, our Trollinger Band charts, of which, as long as we are trading below the bottom side Trollinger Band, we are in trending motion. So again, this is, in my opinion, not the time to be a hero, not the time to be buying a knife, not to be doing anything like that. There's very likely going to be a major opportunity, no doubt about that, or extremely no doubt, or very unlikely to be no doubt about that. But ultimately, as long as that is closing below the bottom side Trollinger Band, we are in trending motion, and we're very likely going to see at least, at minimum, retests of those lows, and well, maybe worse. But of course, if we go over here to the weekly, you will again notice around the low $40,000 level. The last time we found wick lows within this region in September, of course, you're probably going to bounce off that region just by the narrative of being around there. So what does that align with? Probably one more try lower. It probably does try one more time lower at minimum, and then I'd be looking for any sort of interesting price action in the very, very low $40,000 territory, and then come back to it after that. Reference the momentum oscillators that we spoke about earlier. Reference the data that we saw over here, of course, on the open interest, which again, we want to see this reset quite significantly as well. And then if these things start to happen, that's when we start to talk about lows yet again. Until then, it is still, quote unquote, quite risky. So hopefully that was helpful. And there you go. We didn't even talk about low term timeframes, but I suspect that most people are probably not too interested in them right now. So maybe we'll address that on a different video, and I will leave that one off right there. Best of luck in this market, sirs and sirs. All right, nice one, man. Fucking nice one. 10,000 Bitcoin soon, says Saul Paulinho. That's right, man. It's never going up ever again, man. Never again. Never a fucking again. All right, sweet. Let me pull up the comments over here. I see that we already got a shit ton of them. I'm going to turn on the alerts over here, and let's see what we got going on today. I suspect that there's going to be a lot of very, very interesting ones, of which I'll start off from the top. We got Ricky O. He says, Ethereum, 4-hour and daily, please. If done, Luna. Nope, you're first of the day, baby. First of the motherfucking day. And there he is, Kevin Svensson. What's up, man? Good to see you, brother. Guys, by the way, check out Kevin Svensson. He's one of the good guys in this market, and also I consider him a good friend as well, man. I fucking salute you, brother, and much love, man. So yeah, Ethereum. Okay, so let's, should we record a video on Ethereum? Yeah, sure, why not, man? All right, here we have Ethereum. Ethereum, once again, getting rejected at the top side of this ascending trend line, and we have, yet again, another lower high. Crazy. Another lower high and a series of lower highs and lower lows that might even be called a downtrend. So our reversal conditions were, of course, not met yet again. And, well, the blue box of peace and prosperity is the last hope for the Boolaws here. Here's the thing, though. While I see that you... that you did request a daily and a 4-hour, it would be very relevant to be looking at a weekly and a monthly here. So I will go over that as well. But for right now, probably coming into a bounce relatively soon, at least for the short-term timeframes, similar to Bitcoin as well, right? It's probably going to have a bit of a short-term timeframe bounce, and then we'll come back to it after that, I guess. But for right now, you're coming into this region at 33 to 3,400-ish, which we kind of marked off before as, as a major area to be aware of. And for right now, I would be looking for it to kind of grind out this region, do something like this, spike it a few times, and then give a bounce. Here's the problem, though. As long as you're below your breakdown area, the same area that we had marked off from before, which I will now move over here at 3,600, it's just another lower high, man. And it's hard to get excited about something that looks like this for the time being, especially as long as Bitcoin is correcting as well. It's just unwise to be bullish on basically anything else. And what I do want to reference on the 4 hour, actually before we move into the higher term timeframes, is that yes, you are going to start to build up some bullish divergence here. These are really fucking extreme reads, but yeah, probably does produce, at minimum a nice bounce. Let's call it anywhere around about 30, somewhere above 3,500 or so. I wouldn't get too aggressive on something like this, of course, until Bitcoin really starts to show some strength, obviously. And where can we now move down the point of upside resolution to as we bounce off? By the way, I just realized this. We're also on the 200 simple on the daily as well. So again, a likely bounce point to be fair. But no longer would I have to wait for 4130 in order to get bullish on this thing. We can now move it down, which is, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you move it down because it's weak as fuck, but you also don't have to wait for 4130, or at least I wouldn't have to wait for 4130 in my own strategies for a resolution above about 3850 in order to get bullish on this asset for moves back up into the deep 4,000s and probably 5,000s overall. And to be fair, you are still kind of holding this reversal-ish pattern, but as we stated yesterday, the problem with these sort of reversal-ish patterns is that you can be walked down in basically to infinity along these along these trend lines, and as long as you're creating the lower highs, there is no reversal to be speaking about at all whatsoever. It is a bit of hopium, but in this case, we are getting pretty damn far down there, to be fair. So I do want to go over the weekly and monthly on this one, just because I imagine we're probably on some major areas, and the weekly says more further down. Barring an epic bounce back above about 3,700 in the next like 3-4 days. The weekly is pretty fucking wrecked. The 5-day does suggest a little bit lower, somewhere around about 3,200 for the next major bounce, like on a higher term time frame, that is. And the monthly, I imagine, is actually in the same region as well on the 9 exponential right there. Here's the problem with the monthly, though. You are starting to populate 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence right there. So while I would be looking for at minimum a bounce around that 3250-ish region, if that does play out, and this would assume that Bitcoin probably breaks well below $40,000 if this were to happen, you're probably going to find Ethereum somewhere in the mid to upper 2,000s. I'm talking with somewhere around about 2,600 or so if that were to happen. But for right now, to give it a chance. Obviously, short-term timeframes more in a bouncy posturing right here. Bounces up to like 3,550 to 3,600 are completely fine. Doesn't really do shit for trend. And well, I think I'll just leave that one right there. Obviously, we can go look at momentum as well just to see. And let's see. Actually, I just have it plotted on over here. So let me just do this the more easy way. And again, we're seeing higher-term timeframes. Having these major corrections here. 4,000, the magical number on the 5-day, and the weekly is actually still has a lot of room to go, so fair enough. 4 hour is coming down hard as well, and daily is freshly down. Okay, maybe a bit of a short-term bounce, but I wouldn't be so I'm not so confident on the long term on this one. I do think that you probably have one more move to the downside, as does Bitcoin somewhere around about $40,000 give or take, and Ethereum somewhere down around about 3,200 give or take as well, overall, and just a short-term time frame in betwixt there. And I imagine that even the daily no I did my bad, on the daily over here, we're actually not even going to have a chance to create regular bullish divergence on the daily RSI just yet as well. And in my experience, it's really not wise to be looking for major lows until you do have at least 2 drives of bullish divergence on the daily, and preferably even more than that. I mean, for example, the last major macro lows that we saw on Bitcoin were back on over here in the summer, and you did see like 4 or 5 drives on those lows. To be fair, it was pretty damn impressive, and eventually did play out. And I think that we're probably doing something of the same accord as on that as well. So hopefully that was helpful. And there you go for Ethereum, sir. All right, Ricky O's back again. He's looking at Luna on the daily. Yeah, man, I'd be very curious to see what this one is. Again, one of the more strong ones. So let's see. On a lot of these strong ones, I'm probably just looking for these to correct into higher lows. And yeah, Luna finally making its way almost down to our target of $70. Let me just plot it on right here. I'd actually move this up ever so slightly into the 70 to 72 range for right now. You actually got a wick down there last night, it looks like, before closure. Right now, probably is bouncing on the short-term timeframes, I imagine. Yeah, 4 hour is having a bit of an anemic bounce right there. Problem on this one is that I would not be calling any short-term reversals as long as you're below the last breakdown point, which is right now 81 and a quarter or so. Until then, daily probably grinds out this current blue box territory, and actually would be looking for higher lows within this region. And I imagine that you're probably going to have a chance to have hidden bullish divergence here, and you will actually, not today, but very likely tomorrow, between this point, your December lows, and your potential lows coming in over here. And actually, I would still be looking at this as still very, very good. I think that this is going to generally be major opportunities on the strong ones, so that's going going to be, your Lunas, your, I think, Phantoms maybe as well, Atoms probably as well, ones, one meaning Harmony one, and then maybe Near Protocol as well is like the phone ones that seem to be pretty damn good right now. But you do still have a good setup over here. It's just, I'm just looking for this one to pull back into higher lows for right now. Anywhere around low $70 is fair game. We do see very, very low volatility pulling it back into this, and we would theoretically or very likely have hidden bullish evidence present on that low as well. So ultimately, I actually still like this chart. It's just, pulling back here, and that's completely fine, and that's to be expected after going to the fucking moon and beyond. Where did I start to get bearish on this chart, however? Where did this one start to look very, very terrible? Well, basically below $70. That's where you do start to lose your more interesting long-term setup. And for the macro, big problems below about $54. So it doesn't mean that it can't happen. I don't think it's very likely right now. It's certainly not my first idea. But for right now, just looking for this one to pull back into some higher lows and perhaps judge it maybe a little bit later this week, closer to the weekly closure on Sunday is where I really start to be interested in looking at this one yet again. But yeah, man, again, a lot of these strong ones, I do think that they're probably just going to pull back into higher lows, especially if Bitcoin find its own lows in the low $40,000 territory. All right, sweet. Yes.
Jason is here, and also,
Oh, Mr. Jason.
also Mournful.
In Mournful, we got the whole fucking team in here right now. Fucking beautiful, man. Everyone, please give our lovely developer, our best developer, or one of our best developers. We got both him and Dribble, Mr. Mournful, the well thank you. You definitely deserve it for this fucking app, man. Just incredible. I was giving him a hard time earlier, but you know what? Definitely undeserved. This was fucking amazing, and major hats off to you, sir. That is just incredible work, and of course for the price of free right now as well, which is just amazing. Anyways, I see that we got Beast Trader next. I believe he says Mara daily weekly, so this is a Bitcoin miner, and Mara should naturally represent in the same way that you look at like a gold miner for a Bitcoin miner, meaning that you expect this one to be healthy if Bitcoin is healthy, and you expect this one to be bearish when Bitcoin is bearish. And this one is breaking its weekly structure actually, and very likely heading back down towards its gap fill at about $25.50 overall before the next major massive bounce. In this case, I imagine we got 1, 2, 3 drives. In fact, actually almost 4 drives of bearish divergence right there. So yeah, very likely going to play a little bit lower than that, and I imagine find its next bounce somewhere around about 25, and maybe even as low as 22 in a catastrophe situation. Looking at a monthly right here, you got a little bit of bearish evidence right there. In fact, almost looks like the exact same monthly RSI chart as we see on Bitcoin, in fact. And so I would be looking for corrections down at minimum to the 21, which is around that 25 read. And if things get really crazy about the 22 to 22 and a half read, below 20, below about 18 to $19, this one actually does look like a full-on reversal. Until then, yeah, you actually did not confirm a reversal here, which is, so funnily enough, it's actually not even a reversal because it's just continuation on the monthly. This would have been your reversal. This would have been your reversal trend line right here, to be fair. Rejection 1, rejection 2, and down. But still, when you're kind of consolidating in a region like this with a silver cross, you are typically setting up for a macro reversal. The problem is, along this whole way, we actually don't have. We have higher highs, but we do not have higher lows just yet. So I think the hopium and very much relevant here is that you probably do put in a higher low somewhere right around that region. Nice one, man. All right, yes. Not all three of. No, I haven't done any of the red ones actually. You mean the orange ones, sir? Yeah, I just did Beast Trader, and I did also, yeah, and I did the other one. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I did Reki as well. All right, so we got Steven Milicevic next. He says, hello, good sir. What's up, man? Can you do AVAX 12-hour and daily? Yeah. Yeah, actually, definitely. This would be one worth watching, especially on a day like today. So we got Avalanche over here. And another one that, it's one of the strong ones. Actually, no, this one is not as strong as a Luna, for example. Luna was making new highs just this last week, it looks like. So this one, again, I'm still just looking for this one to pull back into a higher low here on probably a weekly. But where can that come down around? Very likely somewhere around about 83. Let's call it anywhere between about $83 and $80 or so right now. And I actually still look at this one as quote unquote good on the weekly here. But here's the thing: you do have a consolidation range going on between about $1.27 your highs and your lows coming in the low $80 region. So I would be looking for a test down around this area. Obviously, that's going to play out the actual head and shoulders on your weekly RSI, which is not good. That actually could be a full-in reversal. I would call a reversal below $80. Would this work on a daily? A little bit below 80 on a daily, to be fair, for like the full and reversal, with targets down somewhere around the weekly 55 at about $60 after that, if that were to happen. But for right now, just short term, over the next couple weeks here, likely a little bit of sideways and down here and fulfilling that $80 target. And then I'd be looking for a bounce regardless of whether it's bullish or bearish, and then come back to it after that. If it really starts to accelerate to the downside from there, then, big problems. But for right now, I just look at this as one massive consolidation range, and the median of your range is coming in right fucking here at about $100 even, nice and easy to remember. Back above there, kind of more in a position of strength. Until then, I'm just looking for this one to hopefully, for the boo laws, put in some higher lows. If you're on the short-term timeframes, which I believe you did ask about a 4-hour, I don't think that the dump bola is done just yet. You're going to see some short-term timeframe bounces here and there, but anywhere around $100 is kind of where I'm looking for any sort of rally to be halted before lower prices first, and then maybe a major low after that. Until then, we don't even have bullish evidence on a fucking 4-hour, let alone a goddamn daily here. So it's probably going to be a little bit of time. Actually, on a daily, you are closer to put it on a daily, although you very rarely see good bullish evidence around the edge of the bearish control zone. So I would be a lot more inquisitive of that, or a lot more critical of that, maybe better said. And again, you are kind of seeing volatility tick up here as well, which is in this case maybe a little bit more crazy, sirs and sirs. Anyways, I think we'll move on to, I think we have coffee vapor next. Nice, man. I just drank my own coffee vapor, actually. Pretty damn good this morning, and definitely needed, especially in a dump bola like this. And you say, hello, man. What's up? Good morning to you. Could you please take a look at XRP? Oh man, we done did it now. Daily, weekly. Wyckoff gonna have a spring and drop below 60 cents, or no spring? Oh, we have a Wyckoff here. I'm getting Wyckoffed all the way down to 60 cents, huh? So that's not gonna work right there. Is this a Wyckoff spring? No. This is a daily downtrend, man. But hey, I guess the real question is, basically, are you looking for a move down to 60 cents and then basically a low somewhere around there? And that would actually theoretically make sense. Would I call it a Wyckoff spring? No, but I'm not a Wyckoff expert, so I shouldn't really be commenting on that to begin with. Anyways, for what it's worth, over the macro scale, Ripple actually doesn't have the worst chart, to be quite honest with you. I know that people love to hate this thing, but to be fair, as long as you're kind of riding these higher lows right here, it is higher lows, and it is a very sloppy but healthy consolidation with an upside kind of resolution implied. Problem is that Ripple just seems to be the perennial hesitator here. But something like this would kind of be the bullish view on this one. So you're basically saying, does it come down somewhere around your wick lows from the 4th of December? Yeah, I think generally the market's kind of heading down around there for what it's worth. Where would I call this one resolved? And I don't care if you call it like a Wyckoff spring or whatever. This is just the area that I'd be happy to be bullish on and call correction over. Back up to, $1.50, $1.70, whatever the fuck, would be back above this last rejective high right here. Your last little range high, just quite simply at just below $1 even. Any sort of a daily closure back above there will look pretty damn good. Until then, it's a lot more likely that you come back down and fill somewhere around this wick low. Again, alongside Bitcoin kind of doing the same thing in the low $40,000 territory. And then the hopium is that Bitcoin puts in a low there. Thus, the rest of the market, the majority of the market will very likely follow in that fashion as well, Ripple included. And you'll probably see something like this, for example, right? And then your big bad area to be getting back above is going to be your $1 region right there. Above there, you can start to, I guess sound the Brad Garlic House fucking horns yet again. Where does this one start to look absolutely terrible? Any closure below this 4th of December wick low, it's very likely getting set back down to a half a buck after that, and perhaps very likely low over time, but at least a bounce there before that next death nail. Until then, I'm actually looking still for most of this market to pull back into macro higher lows for what it's worth. Just we're dealing with big numbers here, and crypto's naturally just very, 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 very high beta and extremely fucking volatile. So these moves are going to be rather gut-wrenching, especially to newer people within this market. All right, let me just plop it back in over here. Mr. Mark Harrison, he says, hello, sir. What's up, man? What? Oh, I see. Okay, I see now. Eli Karchov, is that right? Okay, sir, hash rate is down a ton due to Kyrgyzstan shutting off internet and power. Yeah, fair enough. Again, that's probably going to play into this signal over here, obviously, but I don't really have anything to add on to that. I think that's just I think you're just kind of relaying some useful information, which I appreciate that. But yeah, we do expect it to come down a little bit more. You can see that it's been trending down for a while, basically since August, actually. Not that I think that there's like real divergence plays on that to be made, but well, it actually does kind of work like that, which is rather weird. But yeah, that does kind of help, and I imagine that probably does somewhat rattle the network, obviously. But again, we have a lot of things going on right now. So, it's that probably plays a little bit into it. But of course, then you got the fiscal policy situation and all that good stuff, which is starting to really get resolved now, or starting to really come to fruition now. Fucking by the dip says, how is Link? Is it still stinky? So Link was another one that we were actually bullish on yesterday with targets up to like $28. I'm actually curious to see if that played out, which it did. Hey, not bad. Actually 28.5, perfect. And again, we have another chart here where, look, I'm just looking at higher lows on this thing, man. This is actually still quite good. And this is really starting to remind me of 2018, 2019 for Link, where Link was actually one of the few coins that was bullish while the rest of the market was not. And again, I actually think that this one probably has already found its lows, to be honest with you. This is really good. This is really fucking good. So it did hit our target from yesterday, just above $28. Pulled back into basically just test the prior breakout trend line. I'm actually looking at this still really, really good. In fact, this is probably one of the better responses that we've seen today in this market. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm essentially looking for it exactly to go up from where you're at right now. I do think that you could come back down and fill your morning wick yet again at 22.5 bucks. But essentially, as long as you're closing 4-hour dildos, especially above that 22.5 region, I'm looking for this one to just put another higher low right here and try back up towards your $28 wick high from yesterday, and probably more like $30 overall. I actually still quite like this chart long term, and it's having one of the better responses right now. So that's a really, really good indication that if Bitcoin catches any sort of a bid, if you see any sort of a V bottom in Bitcoin, you see Bitcoin, let's say, back above about $45,000, you're probably going to see Link do some pretty incredible stuff alongside that as well. It's operating relatively strong now for the first time in a very fucking long time, and I think that this really deserves some credit. It's actually one of the best responses that we've seen today thus far. I mean, obviously, still a little bit early in the day, of course, but hey, man, this is really, really good. I only get bearish on this chart, only with the daily closure below yesterday's wick low. Until then, this is among some of the strong ones, and I respect the higher lows, especially right here. So hopefully that was helpful, man. But Link is showing relative strength, and not bad, not fully breaking down as you would have expected during a move like that if it was weak, of course. Anyways, I think it's HFIFM now. He says Harmony 1 daily and weekly. Yeah. This is another one of the more popular ones recently, and I think it was showing relative strength recently as well. So let's pop it up over here. Yeah, another one that was basically retesting highs. Very similar chart to the other strong ones. Stronger than AVAX actually as well here. Let me go to the daily. But again, while I do think that this one can pull back a little bit more, somewhere around about 24.5 to 25 cents or so, I'm just looking at this another higher low, man. This is actually quite good. It's actually quite good. Still, I mean, relatively speaking, 5-day closed actually quite well yesterday. I do think, again, you can have one more move to 25 cents. That's completely fine. I would only get bearish on this thing. Personally speaking, with any sort of a closure below about 24 cents. And at that point, yes, I would start to target some pretty impressive moves to the downside. We're talking somewhere around just below 19 cents. But even that would not be macro bearish. And now that I look at the weekly, that could very easily happen, to be fair. But again, I'm just looking at this as your next major macro higher low right here. You're just going through a bit of a consolidation range and correction, which is okay. I mean, that's to be expected. Long term, where do you get excited about something like this? Well, it's kind of the same thing as before. Anywhere above 33.5 cents, I am looking for this one to not just retest per all-time highs, but very likely make new all-time highs towards 60 cents plus or so. But for right now, man, one of the more interesting charts that we've certainly seen today, again, among some of the strong ones. Do I think that your lows are in just yet? Probably not. I'd still kind of be a little bit more on the cautious side here. It really wouldn't be asking for too much to get back down to about 24 cents or 24.5 cents or so. Until then, short-term bounces alongside the rest of the market, with maybe one more try to the downside. And then if you see some, like a quick move like this, especially like a quick move like this, and then pop back above, especially your 29-cent region on a daily closure, that's going to be your next big indication that this thing is probably going to, be something worth watching. I'll put it that way, man. Actually, one of the better charts that we've seen today. So yeah, that's really all of that I have to say about that. And hopefully that was helpful on One Harmony. I want to see some shitty charts today, man. I want to see some fucking shitty charts. We haven't seen any like super shitty charts today. This is strange. NWB says, how long do you expect the Bitcoin correction to last? With tapering starting in March, it would be bad for it to remain corrective throughout Q1. Okay, so when you talk about news events like this, and someone raised this up like a week or so ago, and honestly, it made me really consider this situation. And when I thought about it deeper, he's 100% right. And basically, when you have the information already in front of your face, we had the Fed minutes yesterday. They're talking about a more aggressive taper. They're talking about reducing their balance sheet. They're talking about having some rate hikes, essentially just quantitative tightening, right? Well, that was all kind of expected around the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. And now that we really have this, really solidified with more certainty by the Fed with yesterday's statements, you're going to see these things priced in about now. And so I would actually be saying that closer to the dates of where those sort of events were really postulated as happening, you're probably going to see the lows actually put in before then, to be quite honest with you. And that's typically the way that the markets work, in the sense that, your lows in these situations, it's going to be quite volatile for a little bit of time. And then what's typically going to happen is that the lows will be found as the market kind of prices in these events, now that we have a lot of certainty alongside of it. And by the time that the event happens, you're probably going to see the opposite move that I think a lot of people would be looking for around that time. So I think that what this has done, personally speaking, this is just my stupid theory, but it's kind of sped upon a lot of this process by adding certainty with yesterday's Fed minute statements. So basically, around end of Q1 2022, which is actually kind of funny, because myself and Jason on the Crypto Sims podcast just a few days ago, we're talking about, when would be like the earliest time that you think Bitcoin could put in maybe a new high. I guess that would be around there. And that kind of plays into what we looked at, of course, on the accumulation distribution indicator as well over the weekend, which did suggest, hey, it's not time to be looking for new all-time highs anytime soon just yet. At least earliest, best case scenario, which is probably not going to happen, would be like late February, early March. And then on average, it takes, a little bit longer than that as well. Looks like Bitcoin is getting its first little short-term bouncy bounce here. Let's see how we're doing on an hourly. Where can this bounce come back up to? Jesus Christ, man, that is some intense price action. We do have some bullish evidence, I'm sure. Or do we? No, we actually don't on an hourly, but you're very likely going to at least play back up towards 43,500 or so. But again, I don't think that this is it just yet. I think best it does to the upside in the short term is like 44,100, 44,200 or so. Again, that's probably not relevant to most people. I imagine most people are probably more long-term on this channel at this point, especially tuning in right now, which again, major welcome to all the people watching right now. Holy shit, man. Humongous fucking turnout for today. And hey, just welcome to the cave, sirs and sirs. We do this each and every day. So there you go. Anyways, we have Mr. Casey next. I think he's looking at XFT. All right, so this is a completely new one for me. I've never seen this one ever in my life before. It's called Off Shift versus Ethereum. And what the fuck? What is up with these good charts? This is, well, you don't need me to tell you that this is good. Here's the thing, it barely trades, so that's a little bit concerning. It really wouldn't take too much for the spade to be back down, but are you coming into a little bit of an area where you would be expecting a pullback right here? Yeah, I do think so. Let's go to a weekly just for a second. Soon at least. And you actually are still operating on lower highs on the weekly for what it's worth, but I don't know, do you have any indications over here? You have an ever so slight drive of bearish divergence. Volatility starting to really tick up as well. I'm probably looking for this one maybe to have one more try slightly higher, but ultimately I'm looking for correction here at minimum somewhere down around this little area at about 0.002 region for a higher low, and then the daily probably tries again. Weekly is still in a downtrend, obviously, but if you're looking at a 4 hour, what do we see? 4 hours showing a lot of bearish divergence, very likely short-term correction. But we have a chart here that just is not in any way, shape, or form similar to what we see across the cryptocurrency landscape, which is very interesting. So yeah, short term, I'm looking for this one to come down somewhere around about 0.235, somewhere around here, maybe even a little bit lower at 2 even right there, and try for a bit of a short term bounce and then probably come back to it after that. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful on that one, man. Let's see. I think we have Chris Williams next. He says strong. All right, let's see if strong is indeed living up to its name, of which I'll plop in over here. And you're looking at a 4 hour, daily, and weekly. Okay, strong putting in a bit of a short-term high right at our 650 target, which I remember we spoke about the last time we asked about this, which was not yesterday, but the day before that, I believe. Let's see, daily. Putting in a bit of a short-term high. Yeah, I do think that this one's going to work its way down towards about 565 or so short-term weekly. Not bad on the weekly though. So while I am looking for a pullback here, I'm not really bearish on this chart yet, man. Long term is still good. hidden bullish evidence right there. Weekly volatility starting to tick up here as well. So short-term pullbacks likely do align with higher lows. Higher lows can come in anywhere around about 550 to 560. Problems are below about 540 on a daily closure. That's where this one starts to look like a failure. Until then, I'm just looking for a short-term pullback into higher lows and probably another try over the next few weeks, to be honest with you. Any sort of a daily closure above about 670 would do it for me, with targets back up to about 800 to 850 or so, which should look pretty damn good. But for right now, very likely to pull back short-term. Long-term, however, not bad actually, which is it's really interesting to see a lot of these things today. I'm still a little bit stunned that we haven't seen like a full-on shitcoin chart just yet, but I guess people are interested in the more better charts, I guess, which kind of makes sense. Anyways, fucking by the dip says a little thank you for my stinky linky. Hey man, my pleasure, sir. I actually really like Link just because of the golden memories, man. So yeah, going back to it over here. I mean, this one's just having a very good response thus far. Very, very interesting, man. 5 days. I think clearly a major low right here. I would not be surprised to see this thing work its way back up towards $30 in the next few weeks, to be honest with you. And this is coming from someone, I mean, if there's a lot of new people here, I don't want to come off as like a full-on fucking permabull. I enjoy being bearish a lot more than I do being bullish, and this is not one of them right here. All right, sweet. Let me find out who is next. I think we have Venom. Is it Venom? No, it's not Venom. It's Mark, and then Venom. And you're looking at Matic. We have not looked at Matic yet, have we? Yeah, no one's asked about Matic. All right. So you're saying, sir, how's Matic after the dump? Hope for another Bitcoin drop, taking it to 185. Okay, so our targets on Matic were down to about 220 to basically 220. And that's kind of where we're at right now, a little bit lower than that actually. And I do think that your targets are going to start to be relevant at 185. If you do start to close below, well, I'd say below about 203 or so. Until then, actually look at this as maybe your next opportunity perhaps. This one's very similar to Luna that we saw earlier. It's all going to depend on the weekly closure. So if the weekly does close, let's say below about 215 to 220 by Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, at that point, I do think that your 185 target is going to be relevant. You're going to see many drops of bearish divergence plopping off the top. And yeah, the 21 is going to be my target for something like that. But for right now, I'd actually give it the benefit of the doubt just because this is kind of your daily area. You're pulling back into the 55. You saw this move happen on relatively low volatility. And you should have, yes, you will have hidden bullish divergence here as well. So I actually don't look at this as fully bad just yet. In the short-term time frames, like a 4 hour, you're probably going to see an ebb and a flow and at minimum a retest of your current lows, which is like $2 even. But assuming that you get no closing lower lows than your current 4 hour low or just your current low of this move, I would not be looking for that move to 180 to 185 region. If you do see that, then yes, the next what is it, 10 to 15% correction very likely brings you down to about 185 or so, and that's probably the next big and probably the last opportunity for something like this if it is going to remain long-term bullish. Which I actually do think that it is. In this case right here, I'm looking for this one first and foremost to give it a chance at this current local low, because this would still be a higher low. We saw kind of a perfect setup right there. Yes, at some point these will fail, but they've been working incredibly well, going all the way fucking back to September. So I don't want to be the first person to call a reversal on that, just because that has not been the winning move for more than like 4 or 5 months now. Let's see. I think that we got Mr. NWB next. He says, is there a good probability of a wick down to sub 35,000 for Bitcoin? I could actually make a very good case for that. And what I'll tell you right here is something that I was harping on a lot about 4 or 5 months ago. And again, when we're talking about a wick down, to 35,000 bucks, for example, this can still coincide with the $37,000 condition that we spoke about on the hash ribbons indicator, as long as Bitcoin does not close below that critical $37,000 low. But basically what I'm going to refer to is over here on the quarterly chart. Now you'll notice, or what I was speaking about, this goes back to, I think I was speaking about this most coming off of Q3 into Q4. Yeah. As anytime that we've seen a reversal on the quarterly, we've always seen, historically speaking, a backfill of that reversal dildo. So let me give you an example. This would be it right here. This is obviously a reversal in January coming into April, of course, and you can see that in April you come back down, you fill the low, or sorry, not the low, but the open. You fill the sorry, not even the open, the close in this case. My apologies. Just the bottom end of this is what I'm trying to say. You fill that area with your wick down there, and then yeah, upwards and onwards. Great. Same thing over here. You see the reversal. Where you see the reversal in January 2019. It doesn't get filled immediately. It gets filled over here. This wick comes down exactly to the open of January 2019 and then upwards and onwards. So all of these have been filled. We can go over maybe one more example as well. This one obviously gets filled right here. I mean, your reversal is basically right here, and this one even wicks a little bit below. That's fine. And same thing over here. This one fills obviously as well. And then the Genesis over here certainly fills, I mean, to a more aggressive extent. Anyways, where's your reversal for right now? It's actually at about your $35,000 level, in fact, which is also in line with the 9x moving average as well. And, well, kind of good confluence right there, I do guess. So could it happen? Yeah, absolutely. What's the probability of it? Well, historically, pretty fucking high, actually. So I guess you could get something like that. Yeah, have to be prepared for all situations, of course. But at minimum, and it's a little bit above 35, actually. It'd be a little bit above 35, probably more like 35.5 to 36,000 bucks. Where was it going to go with that? If you do see something like that, at minimum, you're very likely going to get a very impressive bounce. So that would be something that I'd be interested in personally, just for what it's worth. Hey, what's up, Mr. Hamilton? My fucking man over there. Everyone stay calm. There's always another trade. Exactly, man. Exactly. By the way, check out Hamilton as well. He's got his own crypto channel, and he's just a fucking fun guy, man. Gotta give him a major shout out for that. Hamilton at Bitcoin Beats. There he is. Venom Incorporated says, if you were stuck in a Bitcoin, what? MVP? No, I just did that one. I literally just did that one. Okay, cool. I think it is now Mr. Venom. He says, if you were stuck in a Bitcoin long by accident at 49,700, would you close position given you were on low leverage and had a liquidation point at 39,000 bucks? Okay, so this is a question of basically what to do if you had no plan. First things first, when you have, okay. All right, so let's just say I'm forced into this situation and I can't just go back and say, hey man, look, anytime that you take a trade, you need to at very fucking minimum, have some area that if this area is hit, you are out of this trade, point blank period. It needs to be decided before ever entering into a trade. So I'm gonna guess that this is maybe like my friend, this is a situation for my friend, right? And fair enough, man. We all get into this. I've definitely done this in the past as well. But one of the it's just a career fucking ender, man. You cannot get into the habit of doing that. What you need to be doing, at least in the way that I found to resolve this for my own self, which has helped me like not get fucking dead in this market or any market just yet. You know, knock on wood, obviously. Don't want to have hubris here, but always, anytime that you enter into a position, you need to have 3 things set out in advance, before ever entering into a position. That is 1, your entry price point, obviously, your exit price point in the ideal situation, assuming that what you're looking for to happen has actually happened based off of your edge, which hopefully you actually backtested and you actually have statistics on. If you haven't fucking done that, then you should probably do that as well. And then third would be your risk management, a point at which, if met, it invalidates your trade setup. No longer what you were looking for to happen is happening in the way that you were hoping, and it is best to get out of that trade. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, basically I can answer your question in a more direct sense. What would I do in that situation? It sounds like you're probably more of a long-term person, and in this case, I would probably be looking to get out at the next bounce, to be quite honest with you, and then I'd position lower if I so desired. But understand that you cannot do that again in the future if you do want to have longevity in any market for that matter, especially in a very unforgiving and volatile market like this. That's just me personally. I have a hard rule that when I do something quote unquote bad, like I gave into some of my emotions, I gave into the dark side, right? Then it's best to just close it immediately. That's just my personal thing. Here's the thing though, you're going to have some bounces along the way. It's very, very likely you're going to see a bounce from here, probably even back up somewhere around $45,000, let's say. Problem is that going to be the actual low? The hopium would be is that you do have, your wick fill over here, you V bottom out of here, and you see a closure on a daily back above, let's say about 45,000 to 45,500. If you see something like that, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get fucking lucky, man. But that is no way to make that is no way to make a business. That is absolutely no way to make a business. And I've seen many people go broke, getting into a habit of that, man. And I know what it feels like to go broke because I've actually been full on broke before. And look, you can avoid this pain just by having these hard rules in place. But of course, That's a personal opinion. And here's the thing: you're probably gonna hate me if I say, "Hey, get out right now and just figure out your goddamn strategy first." If Bitcoin bounces up from here, which is very likely is going to on the short-term timeframes over the next few days, I imagine. But I don't think that the downside's done just yet until we see those open interest levels really correct a lot more heavily. I wouldn't be calling like any major massive low. And again, your entry was at 47,900. So you're basically right at the top of the last medium time frame range highs. So that's it's kind of getting a bit greedy right there, to be honest with you. Your 21 is is decently below that level right now as well. I think Jake Anderson is next. Thoughts on Ethereum Bitcoin 4 hour? Is this bullish structure over now? I'm gonna guess probably yes. If it's below 7.8 million Satoshis, no, it's not. It's still above 8 million. Holy shit. What is going on in this market? Honestly, man, no, I don't have anything new to add on to this chart. This is actually still a pretty damn good chart. This thing can come back down to 7.9 million Satoshis. In fact, I think it's going to be honest with you. I do think it is going to go back down to 7.8 to 7.9 million Satoshis, but I stick with what I've been saying on the macro. If you're talking about the macro, on the macro bull structure, which you're actually probably not seeing as you're referencing a 4 hour. So yeah, in your case, yeah, it's over. It never really got started, but it's over. I do think that it comes down around here. The macro bull structure is still available to you as long as you're above about 7.8 to 7.9 million Satoshis on a daily closing basis. Weekly is still, okay, I guess. And I would be expecting, price to come down around there. I mean, the 4 hours, pretty fucking wrecked, to be fair. Anywhere down around 7.9 to 7.8 million Satoshis, and I'm looking for a big bounce right there. And then your bullish structure is once again available to you, not at this level right here, but realistically above this high right here at 8.28 million Satoshis. So I think that we actually got this one pretty damn well yesterday. Set a pullback right there. This pullback's going to come further south than what I was anticipating before. It's not going to be 8 million Satoshis. It's probably going to be a little bit lower, but ultimately this is still a healthy consolidation the way that I look at things. Just short-term corrective still. I only get bearish on this one below about 7.8, 7.9 million Satoshis on a daily closure. And at that point, I'm looking for, humongous corrections down, probably somewhere around like mid sevens, low sevens, something like that. Until then, I actually still think that this chart is quite good, in fact. And again, I want to see a shitty chart today. Where are the damn shitty charts? Where have they gone? It's like we usually look at shitty charts. Maybe when we get to some of the other comments. Jack Jansen says, "Good morning, Krown. What's up, man? Hope you're well as well. Near USD on the 4 hour and daily. Yep, no problem. NEAR USD over here." Okay, on Binance. And another fucking good chart, man. Again, just pulling back into higher lows. That's all that it is. That's all that I'm bullish on this chart, as long as you're above 1390. Same shit as before. 4 hour time frame even just looks like it might even have a higher low right here. Jesus Christ. We do not have hidden bullish evidence, so that would be a good counterpoint to that. Nor do we have low volatility, so that would also be a good counterpoint to that. But here's the thing, man. This thing, as long as you're above about $13.50, I am still long-term bullish on this one with the same targets that we spoke about from yesterday, which are more long-term, like in the next couple of months, somewhere around, mid 20s, upper 20s, maybe. I only get bearish on this chart below, again, a daily closure at $13.50. And then I look for corrections down to $12 even after that. And then come back to it after that. Until then, it's actually among some of the stronger charts. So it's the FOAN coins. So we got Phantom, One, Harmony, which we looked at earlier, Atom, which no one's asked about yet as well. And then we have this one over here, Near, to kind of round that one out. And this one still showing relative strength, man. I mean, all higher term timeframes, still bullish in the way they look at things. 5 day looks like you might have even already seen your correction, which is kind of crazy. Powerful, man. What the hell does that thing do? I don't know, but it has a good chart. That's all that matters, I guess. Let me do it back on over here. Yeah, probably gonna be a good idea to shut down the super chats like now, maybe. Otherwise, we're gonna be here all day. Let's see. I think we got Vince next. Says Rose USD. Will it get to all-time high again? I mean, depends over what time frame you're talking about. But let's see. You're looking at a 1 and 4 hour and a daily and weekly. So I don't really know what time frame you're really. Yeah. So we're gonna shut off the super chats after this moment. Just because we want to make sure that we can address all the people who've already sent chats in. But all the people after this moment, unfortunately, we won't be able to read your chats. And all the people before this moment, yes, we will read your chats. Is this one going to test all-time high again? Yes, very likely at some point. But does this one correct first is probably the real question that you're asking. And yeah, somewhere around about 31.5 to 32 cents is fair game. You have many, yeah, you have 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish evidence come off the ties right there. Probably going to correct a little bit further south, but again, you know, one of the better charts that we've seen here. And again, another one of the better charts that we've seen today. I mean, a lot of these charts are honestly looking like they might even have the lows in. This one could even be among those, although I think that would be very aggressive right here. I do think that this one could probably does reach just one more time further south. However, I would call correction over with any sort of a 4-hour closure above 41.5 cent. And then, yeah, not only are you going to retest your all-time highs, you're very likely going to make new all-time highs after that. Personally speaking, I do think that you come lower first and then try another move based off your daily, 5-day, and weekly. All higher-term timeframes, though, still long-term bullish. I mean, this thing very likely makes new all-time highs maybe later this month, probably next month in February. And like I said, I'd probably call the 4-hour correction over, maybe not even above 42 cents. Maybe I even say like 40 cents. That's like a lot of these are showing relative strength that people are bringing up today. This is really interesting for me to see. But I guess we haven't really got to like the dregs of the shit coins just yet. I think it's Alonzo Vega next. He says, CRV on a daily and monthly. I know that this one's also one of the more strong ones as well. So curious to see where this one's at. Did it pull back into a higher low? And what do you fucking know? We have pretty much that as well. But is it done here just yet with the short-term correction? I wouldn't say that just yet. Could very easily come down to about 480 and still remain long-term, again, good. Weekly, do you have any problems here? You actually technically don't have bearish evidence there just yet. And 5-day close yesterday night, and a similar chart to one of the last couple ones that we saw. Again, this one actually, Jesus Christ, man. You know, I'm usually going to say that you're going to retest your wick low at least one more time, which would be around $5 or so. It's not a death sense. The death sense is below about 470 to 480 on a higher time frame closure. Until then, again, just another higher low right here, man. This thing is actually putting in some, I'm going to get some drives of hidden bullish evidence on a 12-hour soon. Let's see. Yeah, it would. All it needs to do is put in confirm a local low right here. So how would you do that? Popping back above and closing a 12-hour back above about $6 would do it for me, and I'm still be bullish on this one long term, man. Man, I just sound like a fucking permabull today, and I'm like one of the biggest bears on the fucking internet. This is crazy. This is fucking crazy, man. But I'm just not gonna get a bearish on a chart that looks like this for right now. It's corrective, yes, but it's not long term bearish. Wow, this is really impressive, actually. Yeah. Anyways. You know, anywhere above yesterday's wick high, and I'm looking for this one to make its way up towards $10 plus. I mean, this is not bad. It's not bad, man. Very fucking interesting. What about a monthly? This was Alonzo Vega. I see that it's orange, so that probably means that it's probably next. Anyways, I think we have Speak Knees next. He says, Shib, roast away. Okay. Do we have something now? Can we find a shitty chart yet? Is it time for the shitty charts to make an appearance? Yes! Finally, motherfucker! We have a shitty chart! Oh, baby! It's my lucky fucking day! Probably gonna bounce here, though. This is what I had from yesterday. My LARP circle, LARP circle working right now. It's probably gonna bounce here, but yeah, it is pretty ugly. What do we have on a weekly? Yeah, weekly is ugly as well, man. Well, I do think it's going to have a short-term bounce here. You know, most of the mark's going to have a short-term bounce. Any bounce that fails to get back above 3,900 is just another failed lower high before getting ready for 2,400 or so. But yeah, short-term it probably is. Those things are going to fucking bounce from these. This is just insane, man. Yeah, dare I say it's probably going to bounce here. It does look shitty long-term, but it's not... it's not actually the worst just yet. And shit, man, there's even a little bit of hopium for you as well. Back above 3,900, that's where things start to look quite good, actually. I wouldn't say quite good, but I'll be expecting another pump and dump rally back up somewhere around about 5,500 or so, if that were to be met. We kind of got one. Well, thank you for that, man. Oh, dear Lord. Jack, there he is. What's up, Jack? Ethereum Bitcoin. Yep, we got that one earlier, so I think we're good there. Let us know if you want to check out anything else. Danny Odisho says, I believe my question was skipped. If it was... No, I haven't done Marino. Marino says, hello, could you look at DIO on Huobi? Yes, symbol DIOUSD. Okay. I don't know if I should get out. Get out. Get out while you can. There's not enough history on this chart to really do much with it. Let me see if I can find some, like with this chart. Does it have one of those? No. I guess maybe we can go down to like a low term time frame and maybe look at it here, but there's really not much of a chart here to be looking at, man. And for what it's worth, I mean, this is an hourly. I really don't have an opinion on a chart that's like this. What I would say is that here's your obvious signal to quote unquote get out if you are trading an hourly. Your first big warning signal is going to be below 46 cent. Below there, you got some problems and very likely trade down south to about 43 to 42 and a half cent. Below 42 and a half cent, yeah, that's the time where this thing just absolutely falls through the fucking floor, I imagine. But for right now, it's actually not, I mean, it's a fucking hourly amount. It's not that bad, and it probably rallies from here. Look, I really shouldn't, I don't have a good opinion on a chart that is this new, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately. I mean, who the hell knows? But yeah, man, just way too new. If I had to chart an hourly, that's how I'd do it right there. It's actually not that bad for what it's worth. But you know, that's a problem with very new charts. You're going off of very, very little. So I just want to be very, very upfront and honest about that. Mr. What the fuck Crypto says, Daddy, oh dear Lord, Daddy. The fuck did I just hear? How do I know when the best time to take profits off on closing off a 3 white mice trade? You mean three white soldier trade? How do you know when to take profits off of something like that? Well, when you see the reversal, obviously, because you're trading a reversal formation. So, you know, you're probably trading trend in that case. But you should be answering that question to me. Is like, what is your strategy? So you found a reversal. So I'm guessing you're trading trend. If you're looking for that, then you're just looking for a reversal on the other side. So you're looking for, you know, maybe like a shooting star dildo. Maybe you're looking for 3 white crows, kind of the opposite but equal of the 3 white soldiers. Something of that nature is what I'm guessing. But I don't know your strategy, man. I don't know your strategy, so I can't answer that question for you. And there's no blind answer, anyways. Like, you could be using a strategy like that to essentially find a scalp. You could be using a strategy like that to trade the trend. Could be doing it a lot of different ways. I have no idea based off of one sentence on a YouTube comment. And again, I kind of say the same thing to you as I said to someone earlier, man. You need to have these things documented in your fucking trade strategy before you ever goddamn take a trade. This is a really bad habit to get into, man. This is how people go broke. This is how I went broke. And I can just once again kind of shift you back towards that and say, hey, look, man, if you're really serious about this, you need to back test whatever strategy that you're looking for with your entry, with your profit taking, and with your risk management at fucking minimum. That's like bare fucking minimum. You're not even trying basically doing that, but it's bare minimum. Bolo Banico. Could you please check quartz on the daily? Yeah. Quartz? Okay. QUARTZ. This thing? See if TradeView has it. It does. Oh god damn it, it's a crypto. It's a damn crypto. All right, so that's not gonna have that. So this is the best that we can do. Quartz versus Ethereum. What the fuck? The weirdest chart of the day award goes to Quartz versus Ethereum. This is not, I don't have any analysis on this, man. Probably not great, because I can see that it basically trades nothing for days on end. At least for its history, it's traded just a handful of times, actually. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I have no realistic analysis on something like this. Certainly not on a daily, not even on an hourly, not even on a fucking 5 minute as well. But I'm always going to avoid charts like this like the plague. So I unfortunately really don't have a good opinion for you, man. I just want to be very upfront with you. NWB says my liquidation is at 33,500. Hopefully I survive. I salute you, sir. There you go. 33,500. Well, if things go down there, then you're probably going much, much lower anyways. But I just don't understand, and no offense, man, but I do not understand this idea with using your liquidation price as your risk management. That is never going to be optimal ever, fucking ever, man. Why would you potentially risk a move like that when, you know, there's probably going to be better ways to kind of judge, hey, if price action goes here, it's very likely going to go down to 33,500 anyways. And so I might as well just get out and save myself a few fucking bucks, and maybe even just save myself the goddamn liquidation fee, which, by the way, the exchanges are very, very generous with the way that they reward themselves. When you get liquidated, you actually pay an extra fee, just so you know. Anyways, I think we are over to Mr. Murray Kerr. What's up, man? Morning to you as well. What do you reckon? Time to scale out of positions on a pity bounce or BTFT? Again, I actually cannot be macro bearish on a chart that looks like this. Again, you know, we are still actually operating on higher lows on the weekly. And I do think that, you know, you're going to get your bounces around here. I really don't consider this like macro bearish until Bitcoin's either destroys the hash ribbons indicator signal or closes on a weekly lower low. And a weekly lower low is basically, you know, closing below about 41,000 bucks or so, especially on CMEs where I'd be judging this one from, which is, yeah, about 41,000 bucks or so. So I don't know. And I don't know if you're like a long-term trader. I don't know if you're a trader or an investor. I don't know if you're looking to trade the trend. If you're looking to trade the trend, you should have been out a long time ago. That would be $63,500 over here for the daily, for example. But again, I don't know what kind of a person you are. And there's just such a variety of people. I mean, you could be trading a fucking 5-minute, of which point, my answer is going to change in like 4 hours or something, right? If you look at this right here, for example, probably going to have a bit of probably going to come back down and retest the lows and then try for a bit of a bounce. But ultimately, man, I don't know what your strategies are. I don't know what your proclivities are. I cannot give you a good faith answer, sir. What the fuck? Crypto is back. He says Solana 4-hour and 12-hour. Where is its bottom? The bottom is at $0.0. Yeah. Because we closed them, right? So probably safe to do now. I do think that you're going to bounce right here, as is most of this market right now. Again, okay, you're on a 4 and 12, so at least you specify that. That's good. We're off to a good start. Where's its bottom? Well, if you're on a 4-hour, I do think that you found a bottom right here. You're probably going to bounce up short term, but is that going to be like your daily bottom, for example, or your 12-hour bottom? Because these are massively different time frames. Look, if Bitcoin heads lower, which I do think is probably going to grind out its lows at least once or twice more, probably looking somewhere around about $1.40. What about a weekly? Weekly's kind of you're not going to like what I have to say about this one, man. And this would obviously imply that, most of this market is going to go into free fall as well, because everything kind of moves with each other. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing down around about 135 to maybe even 120 in like a desperate situation. You basically have a head and shoulders reversal right here. You do have multiple drives of bearish divergence. I think you got one more swipe of the lows. Short term, is it bouncy? Yeah. I mean, most of this market's going to bounce here short term. How high can the bounce get without really doing fuck all? About 159 to 160. It doesn't really do anything, but could theoretically bounce up there in the short term, but this one looks a lot more obviously bearish and a lot more toppy and reversally over the long term here. I mean, just look at that chart right there, man. That is, and here's your real chart. Like, that's your real chart. This thing's probably coming back down to 130, to 135 or so. Before like the next major bounce, but bounce is not the same thing as bottom. Bounce and bottom are two completely different things. Let's see. All right. John Rays next says Woo Network 4-hour and daily Stoch RSI. I do not give a fuck about stochastic RSI. Man, what is the obsession with the stochastic RSI? It seems to be like it's just the weirdest. Like, that's the weirdest one to me. A stochastic and a fucking RSI. Just look at the stochastic and the RSI. Anyways, MACD and histogram don't look great yesterday. But yesterday you said looks bullish on Woo. Yeah, actually, and I would actually stick with that statement, man. I mean, it did make a new high on that move, all the way up to, I'm gonna guess, our target. No, where's my chart? Where's my damn chart on this one? Maybe Huobi. Oh, hold on, no, it was on KuCoin. Yeah, see right there. Yeah, did clear above that level, and yeah, did tag the next level. So I mean, you played out the move to 130. Where and when we're talking about long-term timeframes, yeah, I would say that it's actually still bullish here long-term, but it doesn't mean that I can't play out a correction here, and I do think that it will correct further south actually. Now I should be waiting for it to actually close below about 94 cents before I get before I look for the next major downside move. But personally speaking, I do think that you are going to test down around there and probably break down around there as well alongside Bitcoin, and probably play to move towards about 80 cents or so. But for right now, I mean, this would be set into one macro bottom actually, something like this. It's kind of what you'd be looking at long term, right? Something like that. So it just depends what kind of time frame that you're looking at. If you're on a 4-hour, then obviously it's not immediately bullish. Although, I don't know, go down to here to a 4-hour, and you should actually have hidden bullish evidence. You do put in a bit of a local low right there. So maybe I should wait for a closure below about 94.5 cents. Until then, you kind of hit your target from yesterday. So you can't you have to understand the differential between time frames that we're looking at here. If you're talking about like macro long-term bullishness and trending, which I think is probably where we're getting mixed up in the explanations here, that would be back up about 138 or so. But for right now, man, I mean, playing within this range is actually okay long-term. I just think that you're going to test some downside from this range for what it's worth, and that'll be confirmed with any sort of a closure below about 94.5 cents. Until then, long-term structure is okay. Just, could very easily do something like this, right? This would be kind of the idea, something like that, and setting like a weekly high or low right there, and then try again. That would actually look quite good. But for right now, I mean, you already played out your move yesterday, man. You can't get more greedy than that right now, especially when Bitcoin's obviously correcting as well. So maybe I probably didn't do the best job of explaining my ideas on this one yesterday. And also, I mean, you can't really tell the future on this shit as well, right? We can just go off of ranges and whatnot. And you're very likely to sell off on a test of the top side of your range, and that's kind of what I'm referencing right now. But hopefully that was helpful, man. Anyways, but yeah, stochastic RSI, I don't look at that, so I wouldn't have commented on that. MACD, I don't look at it as well. So, oh, you're saying they don't look great. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that they probably don't right now. You probably should even have some hidden bearish evidence formulated on the daily right here. Yeah, again, more likely to pull back short term. What you're looking for on the long term, if it's going to be like macro bullish, is you want to see a higher low somewhere right around here, and then you want to see it kind of work its way back up, obviously. Until then, short term corrective. So yeah, probably I didn't do the best job of explaining that yesterday, because it's probably going like faster or something. Anyways, what's the last green one? NWB, yeah, I did actually, just really quickly. Anyways, Kamikaze Creation says, hey Krown, what's up, man? Can you have a look at a young one depot? I can, man, but if it's super new, I'm just not gonna have a good idea on it. So you don't want, okay, it's not that young. And I believe we looked at this button before. I at least have a chart here. We haven't looked at it in a while, I'm guessing, because that was about a few weeks ago at minimum. Anyways, so what are we looking at here on a 4 hour and a daily? 4 hours good. Again, another chart that is not bearish. 4 hour hidden bullish evidence, volatility very, very low, higher lows along the way, very likely working its way back up towards your prior like closing high here at about 800 or so. I'd only get bearish on this thing, and this kind of like difficult on something that's like this flighty and floaty, but below 390 or so. Until then, man, this one's actually sideways and up. And again, among some of the better charts that we've seen today, again, this is being charted versus Ethereum for what it's worth. But I don't think that this run is done just yet, actually. Actually, I don't think that this run is done, just to say point blank period right there. Where do I think that it probably gets up to before the next sort of major correction? Probably somewhere around about 600-ish, 600-1,000 Buterals there. Bullish Noel says TSP on the monthly. NAS. Oh, nice. We got some real stocks. Okay, this is good. Too simple holdings. Okay, that's a good name. What the fuck? Holy shit, man. That is a dog shit chart right there. This one I think is going for the full retrace, but what time frames are you looking at? Monthly. Okay, so you're very high term time frames then. You don't care about short term time frame bounces. Not much of monthly to look at here, but it's what it is not good. Weekly also not good. Very likely going to retest your current all-time lows at about 27 and a quarter before the next bounce. But again, bounce, not the same thing as reversal. No talk about reversal in this thing as long as you're below about 41 and a quarter. So quite bearish long term. So and not really much of a monthly there, but for the information that we do have, quite bearish, quite ugly. Danny Odisho says, hey, awesome info. Thanks, man. And good to meet you, man. I haven't seen you here before, so pleasure to have you in the cave, sir. Anyways, I would like to hear your thoughts about Voyager, VGX. I see it as potential long-term good buy.
He has the go bottom and you see the comment about.
Okay, so he made another comment about it. I believe my question was skipped. No, it wasn't skipped. It's just we do these in order of value there. Okay, I didn't specify time frames, but let's just say weekly and monthly. There is not much. This actually should have a weekly and monthly just because I know that this one's from like way back when. Do you think it's a good long-term buy? Well, this is actually one of the weaker charts that we've seen today. I would say in comparison to a lot of things in this market, fuck no, pretty ugly. Very likely going to come down and test lower here over the next few weeks, somewhere around about 240 or so. Let me see if I can find, I remember this one was like symbol BQX. This is a Superman shill coin from way back when. It's got to be something representing more long-term history. Maybe this chart? No, still not this chart as well. It's actually among some of the worst, I wouldn't say the worst charts, but among some of the weaker charts that we've seen today. Anyways, I do think, okay, let's say that your fundamental analysis is legitimate and that's something to be running off of. Where would you essentially be looking for thinking that is true, which is not my game. I'm not a fundamental person. Not that I think that you can really be a fundamental trader. I don't know any, but fair enough. Let's just run with the assumption, right? Where would you be looking at from a TA perspective for your next major macro low? In this case, I'd be looking somewhere around about low $2, between about 240 to 2 even. But I do want to reiterate my stance that I'm just running off of your preferences there. This is not a fucking buy signal, nor would I ever buy that chart myself. This is a weekly downtrend. This is among some of the weaker charts that we've seen today. It's not the worst chart that we've seen today, but it is among some of the weaker charts that we've seen today. I will, for myself, so if I was an investor, a long-term investor that is, I'm actually not interested in buying like lows, because things can always go fucking lower. Just look at 2018, right? What I'm interested in is buying the first signals of a reversal. And on this one right here, there's no signals of a reversal long-term as long as you're below 366. So above there, that's actually where I would personally get interested if I had to trade this thing, which I don't, so I'm not going to do it anyways, but that would be my criteria for that. Until then, I'm much more inclined to say that it does go lower. But if you're looking at a weekly, man, there's not really much of a weekly here. And for the weekly that we do have, it's not really too much, but it would be suggesting a little bit more downside, to be fair. Invalidation back above 366 in this case. Brent McLean says, sends stock. Yeah. Waiting on FTA within weeks. Okay, so this is a fundamentally driven one then. I want to say at the outset, when you have something that's fundamentally driven, you're probably not going to want my opinion on it, but I can see that there's something obviously going on in this. So it did break this level over here. Yes, we head down to our lower level. Okay, fair enough. That's fine. If you're looking at this one on the higher term timeframes, however, which I'm guessing is probably what you're more interested in, you're probably looking at something like this. And when you get into these situations, like, people are insider trading, and that's why you see a lot of these moves kind of telegraphed somewhat in advance in accordance with these dates, and you are seeing a little bit of an accumulation range here. That whole narrative gets destroyed, however, with any sort of a weekly closure, or even a daily closure, I'm going to guess. Yeah, daily closure below about 240. Until then, I actually do look at this as okay. That is one weird looking daily right there. Let me go to an hourly. I actually think that it's probably going to bounce here if you're bullish. So, a bit of an oddball in this case, but basically, it looks to me like the market's kind of pricing in a good result of this. You'll know that that's untrue if and when this area right here gets taken out at 240. Then you're probably looking at another retest of your prior lows from May. And then at that point, this thing trades pretty sloppily, but it's still kind of holding its own right there. I'd give it the benefit of the doubt, I guess. Anyways, we have Andy next. He says, can you take a look at stablecoins, USDC dominance and USDT dominance? USDT dominance is actually very interesting to be looking at over here. So this one's accurately called basically most downside moves. I haven't spoken about this in a long time either, and I'm kind of remiss to do that, because that would have been a lot more obvious from yesterday on this higher low that we printed right here. I think last I spoke about it was actually on Elliot's channel. Anyways, if you correlate this with Bitcoin, which we can do very quickly here, let me just plot this one up. With the Bitcoin price scale, you can see that they do play opposite of each other typically. The orange representing Bitcoin, the blue and purple representing the Tether dominance. And yeah, exactly. Bitcoin tops over here, Tether bottoms right here. Tether moving up, and Tether, very likely has some more upside, to be honest with you. Somewhere around about 430 to 440-ish region, I think is rather likely right there. So, take that as you will. But again, kind of correlates with Bitcoin at least playing out one more move to the downside is kind of what I'm looking at right now. Somewhere low 40s, I think is rather likely, and then we'll come back to it after that. But yeah, good call out right there, because that is rather sombering, we'll say. Let's see. What the fuck? Crypto's back. He says near for the cheapos in the chat. Didn't specify time. I know it's all good, man. It's all good. Nah, it's not your fault, man. And I think we already did that one earlier as well. I think that one's one of the more hotly requested ones, just because, well, it's for good reason. It's been acting pretty damn well. Anyways, Jackina Crack. Oh, it's a lady. All right. Thanks for all your helps figuring out this stuff. Just want to send you and Elsa props. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Hopefully I didn't scare the shit out of you, but we love ladies here. We respect ladies as well. Respect them with the highest amount. No, I salute you and thank you for tuning on and appreciate that nice and positive message. It really does mean a lot, and I'm happy to do this. Again, it's selfish altruism. I get some out of it, and also hopefully you get some out of it as well, and then we come together for something that's greater than the sum of the parts, huh? Anyways, Marino Colazzo says, could you please look at Sidus? By the way, Elsa cried at the end of The Mandalorian. Just want everyone to know that. Elsa cried. And this is actually not versus Tether, because it's not on TradingView. The only thing that I can find is versus Ethereum. No time frames given, so I don't know where to go with this one, but it's very new chart, so not really much to go off of right now. It's selfish altruism. It is selfish altruism. I mean, it's selfishly helping myself, but it's also helping other people. Good. That's where we want to be. That's like how the world can kind of go around. I really don't have a strong opinion on a chart like this, man. And I imagine that you probably don't either, seeing as you didn't include timeframes. Personally speaking, I look at this as a consolidation range. Obviously below, what is this, 329 bad, above 447 good. Basically above there, I'm looking for this one to, very likely make new all-time highs. Below here, I'm looking for this one to correct back down towards your last major lows at about, what is this, 260,000 butyrols or whatever the number is. But again, this is versus wrapped Ethereum, not versus US dollar, because TradingView does not have that right now. But for what it's worth, it's not terrible right here. It looks like a consolidation to me, and probably a healthy consolidation, but a very new chart, and some that I don't know if you're maybe even interested in to begin with, but that's unfortunately the best that we can do, and I do apologize about that. Know that it is annoying. Let's see, fat killer. Whoa. You can't say that, man. Not in today's world. What the fuck? Solana USD. Yep, we already got that one, so good there. Danny Odisho, all good, man, and appreciate that. Thank you. I really do appreciate that, man. Saul Polinos says SFM. Okay, this is a new one. No time frames on this one. SFM. Oh, is this the super fun thing? No, SFM. Maybe. Okay, maybe you're talking about a stock like Sprouts Farmers. Farmers, huh? Oh, these farmers are fucked. These farmers are fucked. Very likely coming back down to 28.5. But it's actually not bad long term. I'm actually just looking for this one to pull back into a higher low. This is actually quite good long term. This is actually really, really good long term, to be fair. 4 hour is a short term pullback. I don't know if that's relevant to you. You didn't really include time frames. I don't even know if this is the one that you're looking for anyways, but very likely pulls back somewhere around about $28, maybe even a little bit lower towards 27.5. But long term, this is actually quite good. Big bad macro breakout above about $30.5 with targets up towards 30, what is this, $37 to $40 after that. I mean, this is actually an accumulation range right here. This is actually an example of a Wyckoff accumulation for what it's worth. This is really good, and you're getting your first higher lows and higher highs right there. And kind of going back on the Voyager conversation, which I think you were asking about actually, or Mr. Odisha was asking about. This would be an example of Wyckoff accumulation, and this first higher low right here on the weekly. It's actually right here. That's where, if I was a long-term investor, that's where I start to be more interested, personally. Which again, I'm not. Anyways, BK says, how low will it go? Vader versus Ethereum. Let's see, Vader. It's the new Safe Moon. Oh, okay, it's not on TradingView, so whatever that chart was, then I guess it's not relevant to you. How low will it go? I mean, this thing wrecked our targets from yesterday. I think I said up to about 326,000. Yeah, it didn't just get there. It zoomed past there. Again, another uptrend here, man. I'm not bearish on a chart that looks like this. I think if you're thinking about like how low can it go before turning bearish, that would be about 240,000 butyrols in this case. For right now, you have another drive of hidden bullish evidence building. You do not have low volatility, so that is a good counterpoint to this one maybe ending the current trend. Let's see, what about a 12-hour? Maybe this one helps. Yeah, 12-hour looks like it is probably correcting first. Personally speaking, I do think it's going to reach a little bit lower first before anything else. You do have some bearish divergence. In fact, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 drives right there. You did hit extremes on, was it daily? No, too new. 4-hour, yes, did. So short term, maybe a bit of bouncy bounce right here. I do think it's going to play back down. And then if it is bullish, you're expecting higher lows somewhere around, just around about 240,000 butyrols. Below there, problems, and probably corrects all the way down to about 200,000 even. Cool. Elijah Smith says, hello, good sir. What's up, man? Question on how much weight you put on Bitcoin pairs for alts compared to the dollar pair. Well, this is a question of preference, right? So how much weight do I personally put on it? I only put weight on US dollar pairs because I'm only interested in US dollars. I live my life in US dollars, and it's a more steady asset, so it makes more sense to me to kind of chart against, as that's usually what I'm trading anyways, and it has more liquidity. But for people out there who are considering investments in alts compared to Bitcoin, then you probably do want to be aware of the Bitcoin pairing, simply for the fact that, well, the Bitcoin pairing is going to give you an idea of, would it be better to be holding this asset versus just holding Bitcoin, which kind of looked at the least risky of the cryptos, I guess, kind of in a way. So it just depends on your disposition, man. Maybe you want to have more, maybe you want to stack more Satoshis, maybe not. I don't know. But for myself personally, US dollars, just because it's a lot more simpler, it stays nice and steady, and it has more liquidity for trading, which I really only trade US dollar pairings to begin with. Anyways, you're looking at Solana versus BTC. We can do that on a 4 hour and daily. Kind of a weird one here. Let's see. Yeah, weekly does say that we come down a little bit further south. What about a 5 day? Maybe at least one more test of about 34,000. At least one more test down there. Sloppy chart. And again, this is kind of why I don't like these charts, man. They're sloppy. If anything, this is looking like distribution right here to me. I'd be bullish on this chart back above about, what is this, 37,800. Let me get rid of this. Not what we're looking at right now. Until then, I think this one's a lot more corrective than not. I think you kind of lost a lot of your bullish hopium for a massive accumulation range once you broke this area right here. Yeah, I guess the hopium now is that you do something like this. Possible, yes. I actually really don't have a strong opinion on this chart. 5 day, weekly. I'm more inclined to say that it corrects a little bit further south first. Yeah, that's my general inclination here, but I actually don't feel too confident on this chart, man. I feel a lot more confident on the US dollar pair, and it just trades a lot more obviously to me. In this case, you know, where's your obvious like range resolution on the macro scale to the upside? Above about 42,350. Things start to look short term, medium term good back above about 37,600. Until then, I don't think I have a really good idea on this chart, to be honest with you. I'm inclined to say maybe one more sweep of the lows at minimum, and then it's going to be very telling to see whether it takes out the 33,300 low right here or not. If it does, I'm looking for big moves down. If that's what I do, that's what I would feel quite confident about, somewhere right around here. If that were to happen. Until then, sloppy, but kind of make excuses for it, to be fair. It's going to depend on a lot of what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin picks itself up here and puts in a bit of a rally, this thing will as well. Mr. Akshat says, hello, Krown. What's up, man? Can you check out Blocktopia? Yeah, we haven't checked out this one in, it's got to be, it's got to be like a month by now, actually. This one was really popular like a month ago. Yeah, it broke our lower level right here. Now we're going to sway lower over time. There's going to be bounce along the way, but I do think that this one has lower to go at about 3.5 to... more like just under 4 cents is kind of where I'm looking towards. Somewhere around 4 cents, maybe just ever so slightly under it. I'm quite bearish on this one. Now that you kind of broke whatever level we had marked off right there. And I'm bearish on this one as long as you're essentially trading below about 7.3 cents. So, just general sideways and down. Again, there's going to be bounce along the way, but I don't think this one's done correcting yet. It's still a relatively new chart, but I do think that it has some more downside to go. A lot higher probability of bounces somewhere between like the 3 and 4 cent regions, maybe even a major low right there. Until then, weak. Definitely one of the weaker charts we've seen today. Chris Wiz says, can you check out ASM on Coinbase? Sure. ASM. Okay. All right. Another weak one, actually. This one very similar to the prior chart that we just saw. We have declining highs in a distributed fashion right there. It's just freshly breaking below that prior low. This does have a implied move to be made off of it, and it would actually be pointed all the way down to about just below 7 cents, somewhere between about 7 and 6.5 cents or so. It's kind of generally where I'm looking for. The only thing that can save this thing is a bear trap, which would be confirmed back above about 9 cents on a daily closure. Until then, I'm looking for this one to go sideways and down, very likely at around 7 cents, maybe a little bit lower than that. Hidden bearish evidence, volatility ticking up, lower highs all along the way. Yeah, among some of the worst charts that we've seen today. 4 hour. Same shit, short-term bouncy. I guess the hopium is that you bounce up and do like a V reversal, and it's just a bear trap right here, and you pop back above this region. That would look good, obviously, but that's hopium. That's like what it would look like if you see a bear trap. Until then, that is hopium, and that is much more likely to trade sideways and down. Anthony Wildman says, don't trip, buy the dip. Well, maybe for some people, maybe for other people, maybe not the most wise thing to be doing. Who knows? I don't know your strategy. I'm guessing you're talking from like a very long-term perspective. What the fuck crypto says AVAX 4 on a week. Man, you are just taking one for the team right here, aren't you? Yeah, I think we already did AVAX, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. I still think, yeah. And this one still corrects a little bit further south after maybe a short-term bouncy. I don't hate the chart. Just I think that it does come a little bit further south, probably somewhere down to low 80s. John Ray says, how much does a good trader to profit weekly? I don't measure my P&L weekly, and it's going to obviously depend significantly from person to person because people trade different sizes, obviously, and people have different strategies as well and different preferences. For swing traders, they're probably going to be a lot more erratic than like someone who's taking constant trades on short-term timeframes with a lot of iterations. It's hard to say, man. I can't make a blanket statement on that. It's like 50% for everyone. It's like, no, No, man. And also, different market environments are going to favor different sorts of traders around that, man. I'm guessing, and no offense, please don't take offense to this, but I'm guessing that you're probably on the younger side, and it's like the same. It would be like the same thing as asking a gym going person, like, how much do you bench, bro? Well, it's even more complicated than that, but you get my point. It's like, there's a lot that goes into this, man. A lot that goes into this. If you had more like specifics, like, hey, how much does this strategy work over time? In this time frame, given these preferences, then you could do something. You could probably just do it yourself. You could just backtest the strategy. In fact, that's the whole point of backtesting your fucking strategy. So that's what I'd say about that, man. If you want to answer the question, you got to answer the question in your specific way, which you need to, which you can get yourself, but just by backtesting it. So yeah. Anyways, Gemini, and that's just going to be your percent probability to actually, win the trade or not. And then you can obviously apply numbers to that. And yeah, you could theoretically come up with a profit, but like everyone makes $100 a week. It's like, what? No, I mean, everyone makes $100,000 a week. It depends how much size you're trading, obviously. Gemini Athlete says bat 4 hour and 2 day. Okay. Bat. US derp, and let's go to Binance, and yeah, corrective here again. I know that you said a 2 day, not a weekly, but 2 day very likely comes back down to about $1.05 or so daily. Yeah, somewhere around about $1.05 or so, and I'm looking for a bounce there. Again, I'm not necessarily bearish on this chart long term, but I am looking for it to correct lower first. 4 hour, same thing. I mean, you might see a little bit of a short-term bounce here. I don't know if that's relevant to you or not. Problem is that this one doesn't have any 4 hour reversal to be speaking about, especially as long as you're below. I mean, this is not even helpful, but your last lower high, which is 132. I'm generally looking for this one to trade a little bit sideways and down here and try for some lows in your low $1 region. Again, assuming that Bitcoin does something relatively similar as well. You're also looking at CRV. We got that one earlier, so good. And we have Mr. Dr. Nick B first, and then Dr. Roscoe. Metis, yeah. So this is another one that we've been following frequently here. Where are we at now on this thing? How did it survive yesterday? And not bad, man. That is a really big wick to the downside. Man, I'm getting really surprised by a lot of the things that we've seen today. Now, keep in mind, this is versus Ethereum, so it's not versus the dollar, but still showing relative strength here. This is good. I mean, look, it still holds the bottom side of our, of our range at 0.05. I'm actually not allowed, given my own personal strategies, to be bearish on that just yet. A closure below there, yeah, I can get, and it's not even bearish. I'll just be looking for the next level to be hit at 0.04. So until then, this is actually a really good response thus far. Let's see, what about a 12 hour? Yeah, still among some of the better responders here. I'm just trying to look for some obvious. Here's the obvious thing. It's funnily enough on an hourly, not a daily, actually. If you can pop back above just basically your last rejective highs at about 0.06, I would be looking for this one to put in rallies back up towards its prior daily range highs, which is all the way up at 0.69 or so. Again, some of the better responders, but again, remember that below this region right here, 0.05, I do look for a deeper correction down somewhere around low 0.04, so somewhere around here, we'll say, if that condition is met. And for right now, this actually on an hourly, it kind of does look a little bit like a it's really hard to judge it when these things are yeah, this thing really does not trade much, so maybe I hold off on that statement. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it right there and hopefully simplify. Mr. Dr. Roxgo says CRO, gotcha. All time frames, like every single time frame possible. How about a 4 hour and a daily, man? That's gonna take like a whole goddamn day. Holy shit, what the hell happened right there, man? I'm actually still looking at this one as likely to try to bounce up this region again, but here's the thing: if Bitcoin tests its own lows, this thing's probably not going to survive, and probably does reach further south. So it's right on the point of technically it's on the point of maximum financial opportunity. It's also on the point of maximum any sort of a closure below your range lows, which is technically a little bit lower than where you're at right now at about 49 cents, even closing below there. And I'm looking for this one to at minimum come back down to 40 cents and probably lower over time for what it's worth. Until then, more likely to bounce off this region, to be fair. You've tested this region a million goddamn times, and what's the millionth and first time, right? But it's really going to depend on whatever Bitcoin does weekly, as you did request literally every time frame in the world. This is a weird looking chart, man. What the hell happened here? What actually happened right here with these wicks? This thing must be extremely illiquid. Personally speaking, I do think that you're going to get another bounce off the current lows. You might get a wick down to about 45 cents first, but no closures below your current wick lows at 50 cent or 49 cents. And I probably look for this one to just put in a quick wick down, bounce back up, do something like that alongside Bitcoin as well. But for right now, this is weak right here. This is weak. I'm not seeing anything that's suggesting that the move is over anytime soon. So if you do break 49 cents on a medium or high term time frame closure, this thing will come down very, very hard. 40 cents would be the next sort of bouncy area. And I would not say that's a reversal confirm or like that's not going to be a what's it called? A full on reversal call right there. I'd just be looking for a bounce there. Cool. What the fuck? Crypto says Hex weekend month. Oh dear Lord. On Pulse opinion on Pulse exchange sacrifice. I don't have any opinion on it, man. I'm not the person to ask about that. Man, it's like how many more fucking projects are you gonna come up with? That Richard Hart him. He's just fucking nailing it to the. He's just nailing it to the moon now, isn't he? But fair enough. He's had one very successful project right here, but rejected at exactly our region. Man, I caught a lot of shit for this a week ago when I spoke about this. But look, man, I'm just talking about charts. That's all. I still think that this one does come back down to your mid teens here and tries for another base there, something like this. Would be about right, and then tries for a low, and actually that would be okay long term. If you see something like that, it's actually going to end up being bullish long term. What you don't want to see is you don't want to see it come back down around here, put in a lower high, and then initiate the move down to probably like 2 to 4 cents or something actually. Backs off says near looks great on this red market. Yeah, it actually did, and we already did that one, so we're good there. Holy shit, man! Wow. Just a little bit above. Wish you could short Hex. I don't think that you can. I actually don't think that you can short Hex. And man, don't you dare say that on social media, man. You're gonna really piss some people off. But yeah, man, this does look like a full-on rejection to me. So short-term bouncy here. To be fair, it is short-term bouncy here. But I do think that this one is a little bit lower to go first. And then your hopium is for a higher low on the weekly right there, and that actually would look really, really good. And you kind of have to hand it to the Hex people after that. It's probably going to go back to all-time highs if that were to happen. But fair enough. All right, let's wrap up on Bitcoin over here. Just close a bit of a 4-hour dildo right there. Yeah, a little bit of a short-term bouncy bounce. Again, this thing could very easily bounce back up into even the mid $44,000 territory. It doesn't do anything though. Okay, so let's go over like a hopium situation, right? All right, so let's just say that everyone's hopes and dreams are answered here, and the lows are actually in. How would you know that the lows are in? We're going to see a V bottom, and Bitcoin's back to being bullish as fuck, and you can start to talk about crazy targets yet again. Well, maybe not crazy targets yet again, but like $50,000 targets again. That would be if you saw something resembling, well, I guess I already have it in there, something resembling this, where you pop back above your prior range highs. $48,000 is still the area to kind of be aware of. I think the earliest that hopium really starts to be clarified would be back up about $47,000, this last little lower high right here. But if you want to go by the book, it'd still be $48,000 on at minimum a 4-hour closure in this case, at least personally. Until then, short-term bounces are just that, bounces before very likely fulfilling one more test to the downside here. And at that point, I start to be a little more interested myself. So it's a pretty damn fun day today. I want to welcome all the new people here. It's fucking incredible. Really, really long-term stream, of which I'm actually happy to be doing, man. And I hope that everyone just, on a day like today, you can always step back and, if you took big losses today, you can hopefully learn something from that, because this really is the value in these times. You can always pull something valuable from these times that will serve you later on into the future. And if you're having a really good day today, fucking congratulations, man. You did something that most people really struggle with. And that's difficult to do. And that is a true skill, and that will serve you well into the future. And for the people, again, who didn't have that, you can learn from that. You can be that person in the future as well. The game doesn't necessarily end here, unless if you let it end here by having no fucking risk management and just getting wrecked for no real reason. Until then, I think I'm going to be signing off. Please be safe within this market right now. There is no need at all whatsoever to be a hero. And over the next like 48 hours, I'll record a video on a little bit more dedicated onto what I'm looking for on like the next major low, and with some more specific details. But for right now, I'm really keeping an eye on the application over here, especially with regards to the open interest, as I really do look at that as a key moment, as it's just been so damn good recently. So with that said, wishing you well, wishing you a nice and safe day. Take care, and we will see you in the next one.
write it, code it, name it, tweet it, mine it, stack it, live it, dream it, post it, scan it, charge it, send it, do it, and receive it. Trade it, buy it, sell it, store it, run it, list it, first rename it. Crypto logic. Pump it, hack it, lose it, dump it, sell it, ditch it, XR, pitch it, copy, paste it, nudge it, test it, build it, try it, bend it, fork it, hype it, pump it, dump it, rinse, repeat, but quick relocate, pause it,